Let me introduce myself. My name is Nikhil. So I head the developer outreach for Nokia on Windows platform. We have a larger team sitting over here, and we'll be glad to meet you through the course of the evening. We've got some great stuff planned today around development and design. We have some folks from Microsoft here who are going to show you a few tips and tricks and basic introduction around the platform, and even for those who are very well entrenched in this ecosystem, some great new things that the platform can do and how to go about it. So I'd like to kick off by inviting Navdeep. So Navdeep heads the developer outreach team for India, and I'll hand over to him.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. You'll have to pardon my strange walk and gym. I've just kind of torn my ligament, which needs a little bit of fixing. So you'll have to bear with me at least today. Hi, Yogesh, good to see you. So we're going to do this a little differently from what we've done in the past. I'm sure some of you have been at our events earlier. We had this running last season too. So what we said this time is that we will. Last time we covered the overview, a lot of overview of the platform itself, why it makes sense for you to come onto Windows Phone, so on and so forth. Some aspects of the marketing piece, we spent quite a bit of time about our devices portfolio, how the traction for the devices in India. I think that's a done thing. I think a lot of the market understands and recognizes the traction we are getting. Even if you see, I'm sure you're starting to see Windows phones popping up next to you, different color Lumia. I don't need any more pictures. I'm just good. So I'm sure that you're seeing all these devices popping up to you in different colors, particularly with the yellow device or a red device or a white device or a blue device. The first thought that at least comes to my mind, and the number of people I know is going to be a Lumia. So it's good to see that coming up in flights, restaurants, anywhere else you go. So, and if you see our numbers and the traction we are seeing is fantastic over the last 2 months. So what we said was, in this session, we will cover a little more about how you can build quality apps. Assuming that most of you have apps on Windows Phone or are interested about the platform. So we're going to cover, there's going to be a session on design. There is going to be a session on building quality apps. So we have folks from Microsoft. We have our resident expert here with us, Kudeep. And most excitingly is we have one of our top partners here with us from Zomato. They have a brilliant app on Windows Phone, and the architect of that is going to tell you about his experience of building that and how that plays out. So I think that's going to be a very interesting session. I myself am looking forward to that session. So let's get through this one. The idea was not going to take too much time away from all the experts that we have here, but just to give you a little overview of what we are seeing in the last few months and cover that. Okay, so I think most of this is very clear to most of you, but just to reiterate a few points here. Why is it what you do is extremely important for us and for the consumer, right? If you went back in time about 2 years back or a year and a half back, it used to be typically that you go to the browser, you type a URL, or then you go to the search engine there, whether it's Bing or Google search, look up whatever you want to, the URLs pop up, you click, and then you go to the web page and then you do whatever you want, right? The transaction, you read up whatever. I think that's all changed, right? I don't remember the last time, honestly, I went to the browser. It's been many, many days since I went to the browser. I haven't been there because now my search box has become the store search. So either I have the app on the phone, and I typically open the app and start engaging and doing whatever I need to do. Or then I will go to the store search and look up the app and then download it and then carry on with whatever I need to do. So apps is essentially the internet. If you look at my phone, I'm using a T20 as a pen. If you look at Nikhil's phone, Pradeep's phone, anybody else's phone. Two phones today will be very different from each other. The hardware could be the same, the color could be the same, but I think that's where the similarity stops. Because my phone will reflect my interests, because I would have downloaded those apps. So I like to read lot of stuff, so you see all the news apps, the technology blogs. I like to run, so you see all the sports apps, travel apps, and so on and so forth. Nikhil, whatever his interest, I'm sure is more exciting than me, so he has his interest of flipping his phone. Sudeep is even more interesting. He likes to go to trek and do all these funny things. So his phone looks very different from mine. So that's how it is. Apps are equal to the consumer's life dashboard, right? So when you look at a phone, that's reflective of a person's personality and interest. That's why today, when we ship the phone out, we do. If you look at, I've been in Nokia now for 8 years. 5 years or 6 years ago, we used to decide what apps are important to the consumer. We don't do that yet. We used to decide what's important. We used to preload those apps and we used to ship it out, thinking we know it all, and that's what is interesting to the user. That's what we use. Now it's left over. Phone goes out as it is with a minimal number of apps. The consumer finds whatever he needs and customizes the phone the way he needs. I think the third one, again, without spending too much time, even when a year ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, it was you downloaded an app, essentially it was a static app, right? So when you looked at an app, it remained the way it was. It didn't kind of breathe, live, it didn't kind of refresh that often, and it was a one-way kind of transaction. You pulled whatever you needed to, or you saw the content that was there. I think that's very different today. You can update the app over the air. The app is always live breathing, and especially in the Windows phone, where the experiences you have those live tiles. When I look at my phone, I can catch up on all my interests by a simple glance. Because within a few seconds, the tiles are flipping with the latest and most important information of all those apps that are available. If it's a news app, a stock market app, whatever it is, those notifications are in those updates are right there in the tile is flipping, I'm getting the latest update. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, everything I'm getting right there on the tile. So I don't need to do more, I just need to have one glance on my phone and I'm updated with a lot of my interests reflecting right on my phone. In terms of traction, these numbers I'm sure are familiar to you, but just to reiterate the scale of where things are today, 10,000 crore apps downloaded to it. It's a huge number. And if you look at it by 2017, it's going to be 3 times this number. Right? So it's just starting to explode. 3 times in 3 years. It's a huge number. And even if you look at India, and this is an estimate we get from various industry analysts we talk to, and we have 2 stores of our own, Windows Phone store and Nokia store for the Asha devices. And we are seeing fantastic numbers. And our estimate is that in India today, there is about 35 to 40 crore apps that are being downloaded every month. That again is a huge number, and the growth that we are seeing in it is very significant. I'm just going to spend precisely 1 minute on this slide because gentlemen after me are going to do a much better job of this. Windows Phone, I think the key proposition is clean and fluid design. I talked about the highly personal and social nature. So one is the lifestyle and so on and so forth. Breathing, the native social integration. I think the one point I didn't talk about is all the marquee assets that come with Windows Phone, right? So whether it's Office and the whole Office experience, whether it's Xbox, whether it's OneDrive, whether it's Skype, some of these are on the others, but many of these are not on other platforms. So, and the whole experience is very different. And then the consistent experience across the hardware. So whether you pay game on a 525 or whether you play on a 15, how is Windows Phone doing globally? I think they're seeing a significant traction over the last 2 months. If you see, it's the fastest growing OS year on year. But what's important is that if you look at Europe, greater than 10% share across Europe. Now that's pretty significant given the recency of that. High customer satisfaction data. It's good to see one of our competitors getting on stage and even acknowledging the customer satisfaction with Windows Phone. So I don't know if you saw Tim Cook in his last speech, obviously he'll say Apple is the best. But the next one he mentioned was Windows Phone, acknowledging how far ahead it is versus the rest of the competition in terms of customer satisfaction data. I think in terms of devices, from where we were 1 year ago to where we are today, we have the portfolio is much larger. We have a portfolio spanning 520, 525, 625, going up to the 1520, which is the 6-inch device. So we have a portfolio today, a wide portfolio today, and I think you can expect a lot more from us in the coming months. So if you see, Microsoft at MWC talked about solution support. That's something they talked about. They talked about a lot of other exciting hardware coming. So There's going to be a lot of action on that. In terms of apps, the store has today about 240,000 apps and about 500 apps being added per day. To me, this number is not really important because even if you look at any of the larger stores, 60-70% of the apps have never been downloaded. So that's not important. It's important that, in my mind, there's two things that are important. One is that you have all the top apps there, and secondly, you have a flow of innovative, exciting content coming into the store. So then people keep engaging with the store and downloading exciting stuff. It's not the number itself, but that's, you have innovative content, local content, interesting content coming into the store. That's what one of the big expectations from all of you is. How is Windows Phone doing in India? So if you look at, we are looking at only one KPI in terms of apps downloads. If you look at it, it's amongst the top 2 markets globally. And we did some rough estimate. We are seeing a very significant number. 3 apps being downloaded per user per week. Now this is very significant compared to the other platforms in terms of per user consumption of apps. If you look at global data for some of the other platforms, they talk about 5 to 6 apps per month. We're talking about 3 apps per week per user. This is India data. The other interesting parts are that in terms of Windows Phone, we have the largest aggregation of developers in India today. And how many of you have heard of the develop platform? DVLUP? Yeah, so that's a good number. So I'll take a second and Nikhil will cover that separately, but develop is a gamified rewards program for developers. It's the only one of its kind in the world. No other ecosystem has this platform, and Nikhil will talk about it. We launched it in India in August last year. We have a very significant number of people in India on board. And that numbers are just amazing. I mean, in terms of the growth, we didn't expect it. And that's why some of the challenges in terms of honestly managing it, because we had in our wildest dream expected it to grow to the extent it has and the way it's going. So, and that's a very exciting one because not only is it a knowledge base, not only is it an engagement tool between the developers and us and between them themselves, but also you get rewarded for all the good work you do. And I think the best part in my mind, and which we'll talk about later, is that now we are also letting you control or have access to promotion on the store. So I think one of the biggest problems for all of you is discoverability for the consumer. As part of develop, we are now letting you gain access to promotion on the store. And Nikhil will talk about that. For me, that's the most exciting one, and that's what we are also seeing reflecting in developer behavior in terms of what they are after and what they really aspire for. One of the other interesting trends that we are seeing with respect to Windows Phone in India is that there are now some top brands who are coming first on Windows Phone or differentiating from Windows, given what the platform allows. Sun TV, all of you would know. I don't know how many of you know, but Sun TV is the largest media conglomerate in India. They are first on Windows Phone. If you look at SpiceJet, again first on Windows Phone. Your movies, they have a few thousand movies available for download and streaming. They're only on Windows Phone today. Jet Airways came first on Windows Phone. Actually, they were the first airline in India to have a mobile app, and they came first on Windows Phone. You look at Sony Live, for example, the experience on a Windows Phone is very different from the other platforms. So this is a good thing that we are seeing in the last 2 months in terms of top brands coming first or differentiating from Windows. This is my favorite slide. It happened last week. So last week was Barcelona Mobile World Congress. At the app developer session, the Book My Show co-founder was there, and this is one of his slides. I took a snap from my camera. So what he's saying is that if you look at it in the last 3 months, his Windows Phone downloads have equaled his Android downloads. And if you look at January specific, was it January or February? The last month, I don't know which he was talking about, January or February. The WP downloads actually exceeded the Android downloads. So it's a little hazy, sorry, I took it from my camera while I was speaking on stage, but this was really exciting for me to take a screenshot of it. I talked about the devices. I think they stand out in terms of the design. Design is also including the color and everything else. The quality of the devices, Nokia has always been known for that, so I think that's nothing new. In terms of the innovation, we have talked about imaging, we have talked about display, we have talked about augmented reality, wireless charging, all that things that you see. And in terms of Nokia services, so we have a bouquet of services today which have very, very significant traction in India. Whether it's Here Map, which has the largest collection of geolocation data in India. It's not only geolocation data, but they have moved into things like augmented reality. So it's live site, when you kind of take up your phone like this and move it around, you will see what points of interest are in that direction you are pointing towards. They've also started now having indoor maps. So when you go to a mall, for example, if you go to the Ambience Mall in Gurgaon, they have an indoor map of the Ambience Mall. They have 3D landmarks, key landmarks in India in 3D, so you can swivel around it and look at them from the top and the side and get a good perspective of those things. If you look at mixed radio, that's our music service, by far the largest music offering in India. So we have a collection of over 1 crore songs today on Nokia mixed radio. That was called Nokia Music Web. If you see, the closest competition is about 1 to 2 million songs. We are about 10 million songs. You see, in terms of downloads, I think the publicly stated figure is about 35 to 40 million downloads a month. Again, very, very significant traction that we are seeing. So we've been working with all of you for a very, very long time. We've been the earliest in terms of working with the developers community. So we'll cover this in different aspects of presentations today, but we kind of work with you in terms of preloads, merchandising. All the merchandising for all our stores, whether it's the Nokia store or the Windows Phone store, is controlled out of India. So essentially, we have we can kind of leverage what's trending, what's local, what is the of interest to people here. We support it with marketing, whether it's digital, at retail, development support. I already talked about develop and the other initiatives. Ecosystem partnerships, we have the largest, very strong relationship with all the operators. So what we've done is, in the recent past, is that we've taken key apps, got it whitelisted by different operators. So not only for the user is it, when he uses that app, that data charge, there is no data charge. But what is also happening is that every Nokia device that goes out today has a free data plan from one operator or another. So that out of the box, it is data free, no configuration, nothing, from one key operator or another. So that kind of lowers the barrier of starting to use a premium apps. Retail, I talked about platforms there, we'll cover that. Consumer insight, that's another interesting one. How many of you have heard of the Your Wish is my app? You heard of that, right? So basically, that was another way. One of the feedback that we always got from people like you is that one of the things that you really wanted of us is consumer insight. That you had all the skills to build the app, but you always wanted to know what the consumer was interested in terms of using an app, right? That would be interesting. That's what we always heard. So this is the second season we have run this. It's called Your Wish is My App. It's the first apps reality show. It's also run on TV, the final, like it, this time it's going to be with NDT. It's going to start airing in March, working at the March. Where we got consumer ideas, got consumers to give us apps ideas, and then we have taken some of those ideas to developers and got them to build apps around. So we put out the ideas and said, hey, here are the ideas for consumers, pick up whatever you want, build an app around it and submit it to the industry. Last time we had about 50,000 ideas coming in. We put out 4,000 ideas to developers on develop, and out of those 4,000 ideas, 1,500 were taken up by developers and built as apps and put on the store themselves, right? So we don't play a role in building the app, we put out the ideas in terms of the concept, and then it's for you to choose what you think is interesting and put it out. This time, we already have 60,000 ideas, and very shortly in the next 2 weeks, we'll be putting that all out again, then kind of pick up and then again decide what you want to build. So this just helps you because then you come over in terms of kind of enhancing your ideation process in terms of what you can build. So I think I'm going to end with this saying that please keep it in mind that build apps that matter. It's not about just building an app. I think all of you are past that, well past that stage. Build apps that matter. Otherwise, it's a huge graveyard out there where you build an app and put it out there, but get very limited traction if any. So it's very important that you kind of get some attention, get some reputation, and then head towards monetization. And that's why we focus on sharing consumer insight with you. That's why we're going to focus on the design aspect with you. That's why we're going to talk about how you can differentiate your apps, including using some of the Nokia APIs. And then session also on building quality apps. And last one I mentioned is that biggest pain for all of you is discoverability, and we will talk about that also today. How we can help you with discoverability with the marketing we do, and how now in some portion discoverability is in your own hand because you can promote your own app at least on the Windows phones, and we'll cover that. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Gaurav here. He's a technical evangelist with Microsoft. He's got a few things to talk about on Windows Phone development and then later around game development and modern. So,
So, first of all, the question that comes to our mind is that after doing so much of Windows Phone platform, is there anything which I cannot get from other platforms which I can get specifically on Windows Phone only? So, if you have requirements like an app which is easily upgradable from background agents, if you have a requirement like you want your app to be updated with live tiles, with the latest information on its phone, if you have a requirement that your application is workable across the complete stack of Microsoft devices, you are running an application on your phone, and after a few minutes you go to a tablet and then you go to a desktop and you see the state of your application is maintained. If you have a requirement that your application is usable, integrable with the cloud platform, if you have a requirement like you want to earn money from your application, you want to do in-app purchasing, for all of these good reasons, Windows Phone 8 platform is a choice for you. So, starting off with developing apps for Windows Phone, and before we do that, we'll go into the demo also. I would like to tell you what is the platform composed of when I talk about Windows Phone 8. what are the different kind of app models on Windows Phone. Okay. So, as partnership with Nokia, you can leverage the best hardware which you can use on your Windows Phone application. We have multi-core chipset now, so you can create applications which can leverage multiple cores from your processor. You have increased RAM. You have multiple resolutions. You have multiple kind of layouts. So based on what you want to project, you can write media queries, or you can write your custom code which is workable across different orientations, different layouts. You have removable and encryptable storage apart from the basic storage options you have on Windows Phone. And peer-to-peer communication is a new feature in Windows Phone through which you can share data on a peer-to-peer basis just by tapping and share. Obviously, because both of the platforms, Windows 8 and Windows Phone, they are from Microsoft, so it makes sense that you have something in common with them. So, for both 8 and Windows Phone, we have a shared code. That means, earlier it was Windows 8, but now it's no more. We have a common Windows kernel and some of the operating system modules which you can leverage both on your phone and Windows 8. Now, how does it help you? Obviously, you would like your app to integrate with some of the core operating system features, some of the core operating system services like networking, like accessing camera, like accessing Bluetooth. Now, if you have a common shared API for both these platforms, as a developer, it becomes easy to integrate and write a common code for both the platforms. So, what as a developer, or as someone who is aspiring to create apps on Windows Phone and targeting Windows Phone only as a platform, what are the options available to you? One is .NET API for Windows Phone. So there is a subset of the entire .NET framework which you can leverage on Windows Phone. Second is Windows Phone runtime, which is the counterpart of Windows runtime, which we have on Windows Store application. What is it useful? Used for? If you have any operating system service which you want to utilize as a camera or anything network, you would need this Windows Phone runtime API to communicate with that. So you can say it's an intermediate layer between your app world and core operating system service. And obviously, third part is Windows 32 and COM. So you have full access to the native APIs, which you can leverage and create applications which are very intensive on the core. So as an example, if you are a game developer and you want to develop games on Windows Phone, I'll talk about it in my next session, but just to give you an idea, if you have native C++ libraries which you want to use as such on Windows Phone 8 applications, all you need to do is just project those C++ libraries onto my Windows Phone UI. So when I say Windows Phone UI, I need to say either it's XAML based or it's an HTML5 based, or you can write it on the C# or V. So whatever is your core, whatever native APIs you want to use, you can use it right away. So with this, what all combinations are possible? Yeah, we didn't talk about XNA. XNA and DirectX. Those are the two native technologies which you can use for game development, right? So you can see that if you have direct 3D, it's nothing but again C++ based. you can use that to create games and also integrate it with a XAML UI. So creating games natively on Windows Phone, this is one of the options which is right away available to you. There are many other options which we'll talk about. Okay, so now let's talk about what's new in Windows Phone 8.0 and what are the new features involved. So obviously, the first feature, which is a differentiating factor from other platforms, is lifetimes. So when I say lifetimes, why do I need lifetimes? Right? What does it mean? Now, it may happen that your application is running, whether it's on foreground, whether it's in background. Right? You were on call and your application was running in the background, and you had an important update. Whether it's regarding data, whether it's regarding a notification, whether it's local, whether it's coming from cloud. Any kind of notification or any kind of data update you want to send to your Windows Phone 8 application, you can do that, and that's why we call it a lifetime. So the application will always remain live with the latest data. Examples of such applications, obviously weather, news, or any application which has a dependency on a third party for its data. So what we have here is 3 templates and 3 sizes. So 3 cross 3 and say 9 combinations. We earlier this small template was not there, but now we have small, medium, and large templates for our tiles, and within them we can have flip tiles. That means we can flip around the information. I think you might have seen the concept cookbook application on Windows Phone, which is used to flip data and on a periodic basis. Then you can have an iconic style which that's a Windows Phone design, which is basically image in between, and you can further customize it. And then we have cycles wherein you have 9 images and they periodically turn out new images for it. Lock screen. So, in your phones, whenever you, suppose you are playing a game, like a call came up, an SMS came up, or an email came up, so your game gets disrupted, right, and you take the call. Why? Because as for the priority given, the first party applications like call, SMS, reminders, they have a priority over your third party applications, like the games which you are playing. So does that mean that I can use only first party applications as to be my log application? Like whenever your phone is also logged, and still you get a pointer at the bottom, like you call was missed, or you have received an SMS, or you have received an Outlook email, because these are first party applications, right? But do I have a customization that my application I created on my should be my log application, right? Suppose I created an application for my customer or for my client, right? And they were, that application was really critical. Even I wanted that application to send me immediate update, even when my phone was logged, right? So can I use that third-party application as my log screen in Windows 8.0, Phone 8.0? You can do that. In 7.1, that was not the case. So you can register your app as a lock screen provider, which can customize your UI based on the inputs you might have got. Launchers. So launcher is nothing but an API which you can use to interact with Windows Phone operating system services. So we have launchers for SMS. Suppose from my application I want to send an SMS, right? From my application I want to make a call. From my application I want to integrate my contacts, right? For all these examples, the API which you would use is called launchers. The only restriction with launcher is that before your permission, it cannot remove that, right? So if I write an API with the launcher that open SMS, I want to send SMS. I give the address of the person. That means the number of the person to which I want to send the SMS. or if I have an example, I want to send an email, I can write to CCC, subject, body, everything in my code, but launcher will not initiate that action before your permission. So all it will do is just open that UI for you, and then you could press tab on that, and then that operation will be carried out. So we have new launchers in Windows Phone 8 for appointments, for weekend tasks, and all those things. Maps. So earlier, maps control, they were not provided by Nokia, but now the map control which we are using in Windows Phone 8 is from Nokia. And for obvious reasons, why would we use maps for all requirements where you want to track the location, right? I want to physically know where my device is, where the app is running, we need to use these maps. Some good feature like this is vector based and different color modes. So you should know that all these new features are there in Windows Phone which you can leverage as per your requirements. Location and location tracking. I told you that you can use it to track on your device. The new thing is that location tracking can also happen at the background. It is not just. So even if the app is not running on the foreground, you can still do the location tracking. Speech. So one of the most commonly asked requirements that I want to initiate my app based on the speech commands. I want to say open this. I want to order my application to do something. So speech is perfectly available. Speech APIs are available now in Windows Phone. Obviously, it's the other way around also. If there is anything text, I can convert it to speech. Both the way is possible. Wallet. This is a new concept in Windows Phone 8. Suppose take a scenario like you went to airport and you were checking the luggage and the luggage got exceeded by the limits which were allowed by the airport authority, and you had to pay money to that, right? And all you had was a Windows Phone at your hand and no cash, right? And no card. So obviously, what would be your first reaction would be bad, but with Windows Phone you don't have to do that. All you need to do is just register your credit cards and all these numbers using on this particular feature, and you can make payments through it. You can do a lot of multiple things, with this new feature in Windows Phone 8. All you have to do is use the tab to pay. That's it. You use nearby communication. So you can have a list of all the cards if you want, and also you can use it for deals on Windows Phone. UI controls. There is some new features in UI controls. There is a control called panorama, right, and pivot, which they are nothing but more extensive examples of basic list view. So, like the figures which you are seeing over here, they are long list selector, and these are some of the extensible controls which you want. But what is the difference from 7.1 to 8.0? The important point over here is that they are read-only memory. That means, so as an example, you created a long pivot in 7.1. Now you created 10 applications and you use this pivot control. Now for all those 10 application instances, a separate instance of pivot control would be inserted in memory, right? Which is a performance, I would say, performance hijacker, right? The performance treated badly by that. So what's new in Windows Phone 8.0? These two controls, they are now available to all personal instances of your application. It is there in ROM for months and used across all the. Right? So with that, there is a performance increase while you are using Windows Phone 8 apps. And obviously with i10 and now i11, you have all the power of Chakra, which is the native JavaScript compiler for Internet Explorer, and you can use a hardware acceleration. Multiple resolution, the slide is self-explanatory, so I will skip that. Now you have more APIs available on camera, like you can create a thumbnail out of it. You know, you can auto upload your images from the background to cloud services. All these are new sets of APIs which are provided on camera. Similarly for media, so we are having new songs API, like wherein you can play, stop, pause any song from your music folder inside your Windows phone. You can also track state change of a song, like the song got stopped, song got replayed. You can track all those events. Okay. Another very important feature, voice over IP. So earlier we used to talk on Skype, right, on Windows Phone 7.1. But if another call comes out and is disrupted, the call got automatically disconnected. Right? So with this in 8.0, it can also run in the back. That's a new feature. Bluetooth, obviously you can use Bluetooth API for two things. One for app-to-app communication and second for app-to-device. Right? So you can use Bluetooth API for both of these scenarios, and proximity API is nothing but a programmatic extension of an NFC node. So you just come in the vicinity of another Windows phone device and just tap it and you can send data across the same. So this is just what I discussed. Some good networking enhancements also, because if you know in socket programming, in socket programming, there was no socket listener in Windows Phone 7.1X. But with Windows 8, you have both a sender and a listener as far as socket, socket programming is concerned. This and support for IPv6 also is now available. And WinSock is a native you can use out for that. There is so many to tell about Windows 4.8 platform that we have shortened, but I'll try to cover all of these again. Support for microSD. So now you have an external storage device, and you can also access it using your APIs for your application program. Although you cannot write it, but it's a repository which you can pull it down. So you can track all of your externally added storage from your Windows phone application. Custom context store. Another very important thing. So suppose your application, take another scenario. Suppose your application has a standard set of end users which are using those applications, and you want to create your own context store for them. So what you will do, you will use this feature, and through this API you can create those custom contacts in cloud. And this is separate from a launcher, because I told you that from a launcher also you can reshape this contacts, but this is different because this custom contact store is specifically for your application. So you can, APIs are provided to all the current operation on this custom contacts. File and protocol associations. Another very good feature. So suppose what we want is that if a particular type of file is opened in a browser, right? So you want your application to be instantiated along with it. So that is called file association. That you are associating this file type with your app, right? A common example is, suppose if you download a PDF file, Adobe gets automatically on. So that feature is available. and you will also register app with a particular protocol. So suppose you will send a particular URI with a certain protocol on your browser, and you want a certain app to be get active. You can do that. That's called protocol mapping to your application. Localization and globalization, right? So you have right to learn support now. Another very good example is localization when you do on a web-based application. Like how do I create a Windows Phone application which is workable across 10 languages? I have two options. Either I can use a client-side JavaScript library to do the same. Another one that I can use server-side localization, and based on my user agent, I will send that particular resource to my Windows. So now we have consumer storage coverage over 180 countries. This is gradually increasing, or I should say, increasing at a very fast pace now. And together with Android and Apple, so let's see the number. Similarly, we have developer coverage across the world in 180 countries. So what it means for you is that you have access to developer portal, and you can register yourself as a developer and also your device, and then you can send applications to Windows Phone store. This number is also increasing from our last numbers, and also in multiple languages. So I think that's fine. Another very important feature, and I think that is the last feature in this slide. I have another slide to talk about after this. So what do you think that Windows Phone apps, they are better on performance? Now there is a new feature that when you upload your application to Windows Phone store, at that point it is not compiled to your native language. Like in our standard .NET CLR, what do we do? We have different kind of compilers, C#, VB.NET, right? And then it's converted into MSIL, right? Which is platform independent, device independent, and then when it's actually run on runtime, it's converted into a native using JIT, right? So that JIT part is automatically done for you at Windows Phone rather than to be done at your end. So when you download an application from Windows Phone store, it is automatically JIT for you, and that's how you get a better performance. That's how you don't get a splash screen kind of a thing on Windows Phone store, right? So that's why Windows Phone apps run faster. So just summarizing what we discussed, all these 8 features, I will not speak, you can have a look at it your own. It's quite straightforward. And let me now go to my another slide deck wherein I will try to talk about Windows Phone application lifecycle and see a little demo also around the same.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Around August, I attended some Microsoft event. There we were told that you people will do away with the XNA thing. That by February, it's like you just do away with XNA.
We have almost.
So that means that if we have an app which is under development, which has XNA in it, and we plan to compile it and submit it for Windows Phone, what is the...
So you can still upload your application using XML on Windows Phone store. The options are still available, but we have now more platforms and options available to use for creating games that I talk about in the later section. But still, XML and DirectV is well available to use for the show. Yeah. So, I'm just trying to share this. the duplicate mode is not the, so it's trying to get it. Let's quickly talk about, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, I can hear it.
Can we activate an application based on voice command?
Yes,
We can?
yeah.
Our application is basically an emergency response system, right? For the safety precaution thing. So we are there in all the platforms.
Right.
Because we should be going live by end of this month or so. So in case we can activate that for ladies in trouble, we need to bachao. Can it be activated? Because what happens is it also records audio and video. So will that be possible?
Yeah, so this is speech API you can try that. The one of the speech APIs.
Have you tried anything?
I have not tried personally on that, but I think it can be done because it's both ways. Either you can pass on any command to an app and activate it, and also if there is any text if you want to be put down in the form of voice to the end user, you can use it.
If it is in the background, then also it will work.
So background app will be activated, right? It can remain in background, but first of all it will have to be activated. And should put it to the memory. It's in background, that's the second thing. Like if your app is there, app is installed, but still you will not put it to the memory. What you want is that the phone should be, app should be activated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can try that with this feature. Okay. Feature based and voice commands. Okay. So let me show a quick demo first before I start off with the okay. So, first of all, in order to set up the Windows Phone and application development environment, all you need is a Windows Phone 8 SE. That's it. If you have Windows 2030, you have that right away in the system. Now, let's go to the set of templates which are available to you, which will tell you that what kind of applications I can create on Windows Phone. Obviously, the few of them on the top of the list, they are quite straightforward. Data bound apps, creating a class library. Let's talk about the portable class library. This is an application, I would say, a library which is workable across a set of different platforms. So, if I want to use an application or a library or some piece of code functionality to be available on Android, iOS, and all those different platforms, I have to use. Then you have Panorama, Pivot, all these are different types of controls. So, if I just create a new Panorama app, so you have a few options: XAML based, VB.NET, HTML5.js also, but remember HTML5.js runs inside a particular native control which is called a web browser control, but that option is also available to you. So if you are an HTML5.js application developer, all you need is to just write in your code in the relevant area inside your application, and that will be natively converted into a web browser control. That will run inside that. So that's how it looks like. The base class is a phone application page for this particular layout, and we have multiple emulator options for the kind of device you are trying to emulate. Right? Please make sure that your machine is virtualization enabled if you want to use emulator, because this is again a self-identified system, which is a Hyper-V way of your own machine. So this is an emulator for Windows Phone. I'm just doing ABC of Windows Phone application development because we don't have much of a time, but I just wanted to show you how this platform looks like. So if you see the kind of animation we got on this particular platform by default, so it's a rotating list panorama. It's a template which you can use to now further customize your car. Now moving away from here and directly going to my application lifecycle, I'll try to explain to the demo only. I'll skip the slide to shortage of time. Now, when my application is started, so obviously it would be in a state which is called launched, right? And now I have two other options. Either I can suspend that app, that means I do a back button, or I can terminate that application. Based on this, we call it three stages, which is called launched and dormant and stone storage. So we have event handlers for launched and dormant, and that's where we can program anything which we want to do while launching or while the application gets expanded. So I think one slide deck will be sufficient for you to understand it in detail. Let me put here. That's about it. So you can understand that how that computer is running to a closing state and then to a dormant.
You might have experienced that you go back or creators start running, your application gets in the background, right? That's how it's supposed to be. Downstream means just last point about this particular topic. When Windows Phone and operating system sees that your memory is not available for other applications to run and your app is in dormant state, it automatically brings down that application off the memory. And that state is called launch state. So once it goes to launch mode, it can still be recovered, but the state of the application cannot. That's the
So I think I have covered the crux of the application platform and application life cycle. So with that, I'd like to extend the session. Thank you.
Hello. So two of the most common questions we get from developers, one is how can I have a better designed application, and how can you help me promote my application? So the next two sets of slides are really to answer the first question, which is how can I have a better designed application? We've got a great case study here from the design work, and after that we're going to talk about some of the design best practices that we use on so I'd like to call on Mr.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Satyajit, and I'm here to share my experience of building a Zomato app for Windows Phone. So I recently moved into Zomato, so I was not sure I'm going to do justice with this deck right now. So as a backup, I requested Nokia team to keep some mentors on each desk. So please do the need. So here are quick points that I'll be covering. I'll try to keep it short and sweet if possible. I'll just give a brief intro about us. I'll talk about why mobile is important for us. Some synergies between Nokia, Zomato, and Windows, or basically why we like developing for this particular platform. And I noticed there are a lot of developers sitting in this room, so I'll quickly cover 3 principles that we follow while developing apps at Zomato. Quick intro, so how many of you know Zomato here? Oh, that's a lot. How many of you have used their app? Oh, that's awesome. So, first thing you have to do is send me a feedback. And those who have not downloaded this, you can do it right now. And those who still don't know, Zomato, we are, so Zomato used to be a ridiculously easy way to discover places to eat and live around you. We are currently, as on date, available in 11 countries, in 40 cities across the world, and we aim to make this app even more clever. So why mobile? So I think the fact that everyone is sitting in this room, I think more or less we're convinced that mobile is important for everyone. So I'll not dig deep in that, and there are loads of data available online, so you can go everywhere, there are stats available on mobile. So I'll just share one stats from our internal data. About 63%, which is almost 2/3 of the traffic on Zomato's mobile, and it's even more for the new countries that we're entering. So, and the growth that we are seeing is primarily on mobile devices. Desktop is more or less stagnant and growing at a much lesser pace than So why we like developing for Windows platform? There is one word for that. Is the synergy between all the 3 players involved in that. Also Zomato, Nokia, Lumia, and Windows platform. So a lot of you'll see a lot of trend in food photography that is coming up on the internet. You look at Instagram, you look at Pinterest. There was a latest stat that was, I think, shown somewhere that about 57% of the users on Pinterest interact with food-related things. So there is a lot of action happening on food. I think about a large portion of the legit photographs available on the internet are about food. And Zomato is also about food. If you talk about Nokia, they are focused on photography, so making food look more beautiful. Lumia devices, you look at those photographs, there are awesome phones, so that's where we gel in. And there's a lot of common user base between both platforms. So if you look at people who are using Zomato, a lot of people are between the age to like about 19 to 20. They like going out. They have such a lifestyle attached to it. And a lot of that is common with people buying Lumia devices. So there is a huge overlap between the 2. And then the third one, and the most important one, is the Metro UI. So what we've seen is Metro UI as a platform. It's a great UI for consuming content and discovering it. So if you use any of our apps, I think what the kind of engagement that we see on the Windows platform is marginally higher than the other ones. And those are about the product. And there is another marketing synergy that we share between the platform. So we've done some awesome campaigns together thanks to the team there. There was a campaign that we did. So we were talking about the visibility that we get across the platform. So we've done a great campaign during IPL last season where we were promoting Nokia on our website. Nokia also did a great job by promoting Zomato app on an EDC that they had. Then we did a campaign in Dubai during its card. We were also shown by Nokia on the buildings there. actually gone places with the Nokia. But the best marketing that you can do for your company is to build a great product. No matter how good a brand tries to support you, no matter how much money you have in your pocket, unless you have a great product, it will be very difficult to push any of those in the app stores unless the user likes it. So I'll quickly cover 3 things as a principle that we follow in the organization about building the product. The first one is leveraging the platform. So what we've seen is a lot of people build their apps and they keep it pretty much common across different platforms. Maybe because of different reasons, it's ease of use, lack of resources or whatsoever. And there are few who try to customize little bit of UI so that it looks familiar. So like an Android would slightly, they have some different buttons. iOS will have like a slightly translucent tab bars, and they'll try to do something with the metro UI. But very few are actually leveraging the platform. So if you look at the user, so if he is buying a different device, so each platform has their own pluses and minuses. And that's the reason behind some user picking up a platform over the other. So let's say somebody is buying a Windows phone or an Android or an iOS. There will be particular reasons behind the reason that he's making that choice. And those are the pluses and minuses between the different platforms. So what you have to do is try to leverage those platforms so that users can, your product and the reasons behind the user, that has the reason behind which the user has taken that platform, coincide with each other. So we like the product even more. So what we do, try to do at least with Windows is we talked about the favorite interface. So our app which is available in the store, it supports Windows 8. It's entirely based on favorite design, which also helps user in exploring more content. So that's what I was talking about earlier also. So that's the default landing page that the user will see. And you will see some bit of the next screen under scroll. So it helps the user in experiencing more content and engaging more with the app. Second native feature that we use with Windows is a tile feature that we talked about earlier. So what it does is that it takes your current location without you doing anything. It keeps on showing the nearest restaurants around you. So it will check your background, it will do a search and it will show the restaurants around you without doing anything. And the third one, which is again we talked about earlier, was the screen lock. So it's simply cool stuff to do. Just enable this lock for a screen lock and you will see your bedroom pictures on your screen. Second important thing about building an app is keeping the basics right. So a lot of people put a great emphasis building a great UI, we try to incorporate a lot of cool features. But what we see is actually a lot of apps which fail on the stores are because of the basics which are not right in the app. They forgot to test the app on edge. They don't test it across different platforms, and they forget the corner places. They don't have any crash detections placed in the app. So what we try to do is that at least try to cover as many scenarios as possible and try to make our apps as robust so that at least the basics are right. People don't feel bad about using our apps. What happens is, so these are the latest reviews of Smart Apps that put it from the store. So you will never be able to cover 100% of the scenarios, but at least try to make most of the users happy. So there are still places where probably we need to improve. The first one is a patch that we figured out, probably will roll out in the next release. But all these reviews are like tattoos, so they never go. So what you have to try to make sure is that it doesn't look like this. So there is another app that I just copied this. So I'll not name the app, but you have to make sure that it doesn't look like this. So it's a very good looking app, but nobody is downloading it because of some basics which have went wrong. And the third one is we treat everyone as equal. So the reason, so just because some of our user has decided to pick up a different platform, he likes a platform over the other, doesn't mean that we'll try to deprioritize his choices or we'll not use the complete product. So we try to treat as many as users as equal as possible. So what we do is that we launch our products across all the platforms at the same time. And the user, the kind of feature parity we try to maintain. So there will be some exclusive features available across each platform, try to depending upon the kind of native compatibility available. But in terms of the launch and feature parity, the core feature parity, we try to keep everything as equal as possible across the platform so that users don't feel bad that they are being treated as a third world country. So here's what our apps look like. Whenever there is an update, it goes across all the platforms. As I said, I'll try to keep it short and simple. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, before I wrap up this session, I would like to thank all of you for listening it patiently. And the Nokia team, I think Priyank is not there today, but I think it's a great platform to pass on my regards to him. He's been a great help and to the fans and the channel as well. So, do you have any questions or non-technical? Sure.
So how do you guys manage to build everything immediately for all the platforms? So it's like you have a different team for each platform.
Yeah. So that's why you have to invest. So if you have to build great products, you have to invest in the resources. So you can't have. It's difficult for one person to do it across all the platforms, and so you have to make choices where you compromise. If you have to ship a great product, you have to make some investment in terms of resources.
Because storage is like all the platforms.
Yeah, yes.
And there are some other reservations. So like since we were talking about it, so we are building a market for games. So I talked to few UI designers and few app developers. So there is a glossary that you build for mobile first. So initially we are trying to do like we will be using our app in a responsive form. So what's your view on that? So we go immediately since day one, or initially we can start with a review and see or later on migration we can do.
So there are two things to it. One, you said about mobile first, and the other one was which approach is better for you, web view or a native app. Okay, so what happens with web view, or like it's very simple to take a decision between a web view or a mobile. So what happens with mobile is the consumer is very unforgiving. So if you look at the stats, it roughly it used to take about 24 seconds to impress a user on a website. So it used to take about 24 seconds for a user to take a call whether he needs to stay on the site or abandon it. The same number for mobile is 6 days. And the cost of acquiring the same user is, once he abandons your app or he deletes it, it's like enormously high in getting that user back. So what you have to take a call is that in terms, so it will entirely depend on the kind of offering that you're having. So let's say if you're building an app which is highly engaging, there is a very high repeat usage of the app, and user experience is extremely critical. I think gateway should be the way to go. But if you're building an app which is like a one-off usage, and it's a reference app, like a reference product, wherein the user doesn't have to interact in every day, probably let's say some content inside, or then probably you can do it without web. But if the user experience is critical and there is a high repeat of the product, I think gateway would be a better.
retention. We don't want to lose our customer, and we want to keep it high in the days. So
I would suggest native, because people prefer native apps over web pages, unless it's like a very simple interface where he's reading some content. If there is little bit of interaction, engagement, then I think native would be a better. It's slightly difficult to scale up, but I think it pays off now.
Thank you.
In terms of the repeat usage, I think it's
versus
I think it's so I'll not probably able to give you the exact number, but mobile is much higher than desktop. So
would be double difference.
Yeah, slightly. So because what happens is once the user, so there is a huge overlap between the two users also. So what we'll say is that people who are accessing your product across both platforms, they are even more engaged. So there will be people who will be accessing your desktop, who let's say will have an X visit over a month, and people who are accessing on your mobile product, they have Y will be higher than X, and there will be a set of people who will be interacting your product across both platforms, and then Z will be much higher than X.
So I have a question. It's regarding people using application on mobile and web. So I just want to understand one of the slides you have mentioned that 63% of users serve or visit on your mobile application. So I just want to understand those 63% of users, what sort of features, in terms of features they are looking into on mobile side, what sort of experience they are having on mobile side, and what sort of things that they are doing on web. Is there some sort of difference in the feature and the way you
so I'll give you one very interesting number. I'll not get into much of detail, but like everyone talks about that mobile is pretty much local and urgent. So people take out mobile and that so when there is a sense of urgency, otherwise they'll take their time, they'll do stuff on the desktop. So there's one thing about Zomato is that people use mobile when they're really moving. So when you see the surge of the traffic on desktop versus mobile, the traffic on desktop usually is higher, I think, a couple of hours before the lunch hours. But mobile, it's very high when there is a lunch hour. So people are using the mobile are like, you can say, hungrier than people on the desktop. Thank you.
Any other questions we can take that offline? I'd like to introduce Kuldeep here. So Kuldeep is going to speak specifically about Windows Phone design. So before that, I'd like to just thank Satya, and we've got some goodies for you. I'd like Naveed to hand it over.
Good evening. My name is Kuldeep Welker, as you can see. I try to keep it in a small font face. I'm a guy who's got many designations, not because jobs are important, because you just have to figure out what to do. I put there partner product manager. What I fundamentally do is I work with large brands, big apps, and help them bring their apps from other platforms or from an ideation stage to Windows Phone. So we were discussing that what do I talk about, I straddle technical disciplines and design disciplines and the like. And I said, you know what, there's one thing that I see which app developer in India desperately needs, which is, by the way, we're such big fans of Zomato, is design. And it's not even that we don't have pretty looking apps. The problem is fundamentally that we don't have apps that understand design in its deep sense. So I have been given 15 minutes, and design is something that's learned over a lifetime of experience or something. What I want to do in these 15 minutes is get a nice structure around. Hopefully, again, you learn this by doing. So hopefully, in 15 minutes, I want to be able to deliver to you how to think about app design. How to think about design. As a developer, you do this day in and out. And one thing I learned is never preach to practitioners. You guys practice. I practice a bit, but most of it is preaching. I'll try and see if you can build some sort of a structured thinking about design. Right? So I want to start with what's design. Let's talk about the core fundamentals. And there's a very easy way. What most of what I'm saying is can be classified as Gyan. So when in doubt, raise your hand, ask a question. I'll know that I'm getting to there, right? Seriously, I don't know any instructions. Please. Right. Design. The way I think about design is order. Right? We're gonna completely dispense with the visual aspect of design. To me, and at the core of what Windows Phone is, what is design? Design is order. Design is putting things in their correct order. Design is the appearance of simplicity. Design is managing the relationship of elements and remove anything clashes. This is what comes out of order. Now, I thought about what example can I give to illustrate this, and then I thought that let me give the example of the Windows Phone lock screen. You've heard of all the arguments against skeuomorphism, making things look like the real counterparts, and notepads that look like real paper notepads. People spending literally hours trying to recreate the feel of paper on a digital screen. All that. The lock screen of the Windows Phone gives you so much information, and look at the way it structures it. There is a nice, pretty wallpaper because you obviously want to take a look at the picture every time you log into the device. Then there is the clock, right? Note something, that this clock doesn't have a label saying time, right? So many times people who want to put time there, they will say, what, I need to tell my user what this is. As a user, I wouldn't know that 8:27 is the time. There's a small glyph. It's not even an icon. It's so small. It's a glyph that says that I have an active alarm, right? And that icon is not distinguishable from a distance because it doesn't need to. This is my phone. I've probably used it for 100 hours. I know where everything is. Right? Below that is the day, nice, bold, month. In a very small, there's a bunch of text. This is my phone. I know that's a meeting that I have in a few hours. This doesn't need to make sense to you. Right? It needs to make sense to me because it's my phone. It's meeting. Below that there are some odd icons. People use Windows Phone know them to be home screen notifications. To me, it makes sense. Everybody else, it doesn't need to. I sometimes think about the designer who spent his time designing this screen. So they probably have to throw away so much. They just said, okay, we're going to make this home screen look pretty. The primary object is going to be that people have to see a pretty picture because no one likes to have ugly home screen. On top of that, we need to give the user a lot of information, so they don't really need to unlock the phone and go inside. We need time, date, month, what is the next meeting, how many calls you missed, what are the messages. This is how we order it. Some things are big, some things are small. Right? And what I have seen, most people basically take out their phone out of their pocket, really to take a look at the time if they have any yourself. Beyond that, you have people really don't take their phone out of their pocket. Design is order. You have certain objectives, you take certain elements, you put them in a specific order, you have simplicity. You do not need to make sense for others. I am not going to show off my home screen. My home screen only needs to make sense to me. Right? In this context, because the user sees, if the home screen was an app, because as a designer I know that my user is going to use this for hundreds of hours, I don't need to insult my user by adding labels and adding icons. If today somebody couldn't read English, it would be very difficult for them to make out which one is the day and which one is the month. Right? But that doesn't matter, because if I am the user, I know which I am. So design is order, design is simplicity. Take the elements that you have, put them in the order which you think the user will see them in, or the user makes sense to the user, which is the most important element for the user, which is not, and you have good design. Design is order. Design is problem solving. I really did put a screen there because it is full of illustrations. Every time I go to one of these meetings and okay, we are going to build this app. And we have this idea. And people start with that we want our app to look like this. Our app should, typically when you say, okay, and you must have faced this way, right? And I'm an engineer by training, and I'm sure we have plenty of engineers in the room. Anytime you say describe this app, when you have a great idea, right, you usually start with a picture in your head. And surprisingly, I've actually heard people that I have an app which shows, which is a red background and a white thing. They don't have an idea of the app and how to do it, but they have an idea of what the app will look like. Different people think different way, but I think it's a very high idea. Me? Yes. Yes, of course. And I was really hoping somebody would say that, because I have something ahead that will really use that of course the mind thinks for pictures. But the problem with that is sometimes pictures get in the way of design thinking. Because what happens is, the mind thinks in terms of pictures, but the mind also falls in love with the pictures that you paint yourself. The objective of app design is not you, the objective of the app design is the user. The objective of the app design is the user, not you. The problem with putting a picture and a color there is, I have this weird taste. My favorite color is red. Do you know, by the way, statistically speaking, if you were to divide the population into men and women, most women do not have red as their favorite color. Actually, the most favorite color in the world is green. Right? As a product manager, you think about that stuff. Right? If you want to make a general neutral app, I didn't want to say black and white, you want to do green. Right? You do not want red. Sorry, sir. So I don't red. But yeah, that's just something maybe some guys opinion. Right? But the problem with thinking about design as a product manager, as an app developer, in terms of pictures, is that you fall in love with the pictures that you paint. And when you paint a picture of somebody, right, if I am a junior, it's very difficult for me to criticize your design. Right? And if I'm a senior, I'm like, how do I tell this guy that his choice in color is really bad? Why do you think I'm wearing a white shirt? I can't pick clothes. I said, I need to pick the color of dress, let me just pick black, the most complex color, right? No. So my instinct in terms of pictures, you're right, but the pictures you paint, you fall in love with. So when you want to think in terms of design, you want to think in terms of structure. There is a time when you have to paint pictures, and that is the most difficult part. And I'll tell you where, I come to that. But design is problem solving. So these are general terms, but I really want to focus on the third part, think like an engineer. With the design, you're trying to solve a problem. And I know I'm talking about an abstract sense of design, but with design, you're trying to solve a problem, and the best way it helps is you need to think like an engineer. The biggest problem, I believe, why we have so many badly designed apps, that engineers, when thinking about design, stop thinking like engineers. And towards the end of this, I have a 4-minute demo where I want to show an app done by an engineer, quite simple app. I want to say how it's a beautifully designed app, and it's very cool, it's very simple. And I'll say how thinking like an engineer helps. Thinking like an engineer helps because as an engineer, you are trained to solve problems. Engineers are basically trained in solving problems with the best efficiency and the least cost. Right? Think like an engineer. In terms of design, if you you're a single developer, you have very limited resources. You just spoke about how it's built for every platform. You know what? That's the most fantastic design problem to think about. Take a look at the Twitter app. If you put the Twitter app on all platforms side by side, and you'll be surprised if you put all the platforms Twitter is on side by side, you'll actually have a very big line. Like from television to tablets to phones to feature phones to smartphones, are everywhere. But everywhere you can distinguish that this is a Twitter app. Because they took some fundamental structure and they said, look, I am going to have these 5-6 elements and I'm going to reuse them aggressively. Reuse is something that we were taught aggressively as an engineer. Standardize, reuse. Standardize, reuse. Best example, Zomato. You blur out Zomato, all 5 apps, right? And you put a couple of other apps that use black, white, and red, and you'll still be able to make out that Zomato because they reuse the same design language across every platform while staying native. It's a lot tougher to do than it seems that I'm making it out to be. But if you think of it as a structured problem, solve it. It's easy. Right. And of course, think like an artist. That comes later. But before you need to know what problem you're trying to solve with, but I'll come to that. This is, I believe, the most important part. And that's where empathy. Empathy is a term where, I need to put myself in the shoes of the user. We say that, right? But empathy is a little more. It says, put yourself in the shoes of the user. Also, try to understand their pain. Right? Some of us make apps that are so gaudy that the user takes a look at them and uninstalls this. You just made the user download a 2 megabyte file, launch it with some expectations, disappointed her, and now she's having to uninstall the app. Right? You just killed 1 minute of her life that she's never getting back again. So when you build an app, try and make sure that am I going to earn this time from this user? When she will download my app, do I earn this time? Now that's very high level, it's probably a little bit insulting, I know. But the point I'm making is, when you're making an app, design for your users, solve a real problem, step into their shoes. Never let an app go out there without beta testing. Name any great successful app and I will tell you how aggressively they beta tested that app. Every great app developer who's ever made it to the million download club has a very close, very aggressive, very loud mouth beta testing. They actually select users who will give them horrible, who will tell them your app is horrible. There is a certain set of users who never makes an app over 1 star because they just hate the word. They download an app and they see it's a sala bakwas, 1 star. Right? They will write words starting with C, 5 stars. They will write B, 5 stars. These are people who write words that they themselves cannot get themselves to type. They use stars themselves. Right? They drop F-bombs on comments. But these people are great things because imagine if you were to win over one of those users. You got something. Either you got something or you designed specifically for that user. That's a separate topic. Empathy. Now I'll try to illustrate these very quickly. I'm sorry, I just lost okay. This to me is what design is. Design is good business. This, by the way, Thomas J. Watson said this in 1951. He's at CEO of IBM even back then. And this makes a lot of sense from an app design perspective. Design is good business. You structure your app properly, you structure information. So what are apps? Apps are structured information. Order them properly, right? Design them cleanly. Design them for a user. Think in those things, right? Does my app meet the order criteria? Right? Quickly go over it. Does my app solve a real problem? Right? Does it solve the problem or does it take users through 5 screens of my great design and then solve the problem for them? Right? If I want your app to get cricket scores, I want to get my cricket scores in 1 screen, not 10 screens down the line after showing me, hey, there is a photo of Tendulkar, there is a photo of Dhoni, and by the way, here are your scores if you click through these 5 more screens. Right? Care about the user? Good business. This is what it in practical terms. When you think about design, to me, this structure works best. Top to down.
before you ever design an app, you design the experience. So the picture we were talking about, instead of having it as an image of what the app looks like, start thinking in terms of the journey a user is making. Has anybody here worked with a designer, a real app designer? Right? Cool. Right? And you know that designers talk about journeys all the time, right? Designers never talk about, right? Designers say, let's talk about user journeys. Right? Why do they do that? Because forget all that. I mean, graphic designer, I think, we have two people sitting up there who know awesome what is in fashion, what's trending, and how to make a button look awesome. Let's talk about journeys. Let's talk about what is the journey that a user is going to take to solve that particular problem. Right? You want to make a game. You know, one of the first things that the game designers do is they sit around a table and say, all right, what is our primary constraint? Our game is going to make people bounce a ball off a paddle at a lot of bricks and break them, right? Or what is the constraint? That's still not a game, right? That's an image, right? But what's the thing? We want users to always be pressing buttons and always have a feeling that we will lose control. And if you notice, a lot of the games that we loved from our back in the day are games where you're always racing against time or racing against something that if I stop pressing this button, I'll lose control of it. Pac-Man, right? Arkanoid. Experience. Mario, I need to keep running, I need to keep jumping, right? You have this tension that you're building up. It's okay. We want a game that is fast. You know when they say fast-paced strategy, RPG, shooter, what have you, right? Temple Run. Flappy Bird, there you go, right? You start with an experience. You don't start with an image. One of the biggest reasons we have millions of crappy games on the store is people say, I want a game that has guns. I want a game, by the way, after Flappy Bird, people say, I want a game that has Flappy in the title. Right? And therein lies the problem, right? You can't start with that, right? You start with experience, right? One of the most respected game developers, by the way, on Windows Store is Rebellion, right? Guns for Hire, zombie versus they always have these, when you see the game described, right, they always write the game, it's a fast paced, it's a strategic shooter, and it's a twin shooter, right? So they're very clear that we want to, this is the experience we want to deliver. And is there, and once you start thinking like that, right? For example, recently I saw this RSS readers. I'm a big fan, I read a lot on mobile. There are a lot of RSS readers. What I love about these days, think about experience. So some guys say, we are the most rich, the rich experience of reading an RSS feed. Some guys will say, we are the fastest RSS reading experience. No graphics, you launch the app, it goes snapping, you see the top 10 titles, they start with experience. So, you design your experience first. Move on to designing the interaction. That this is the experience, how will I do this? And this is the stage when you in a game design, you typically start saying that, okay, I want a single tap. Flappy Bird is a single tap, simplest game in the world, right? On the other hand, you have twin stick shooters like, Halo, where you have two sticks and your grenades and guns and this and that. I want user hands-on. And I'm simplifying the problem a lot, but in a real world outside games, right? Interaction design is extremely complex. For example, imagine everybody uses pull to refresh, right? But people forget that pull to refresh is such an awesome interaction mechanism, where people once had to find a refresh button. Today, everybody tries to pull the list down to see if it refreshes. It's become a metaphor that everybody understands. Once you know your experience, that I want my app to be very, I want to make a stream reader and I want it to be very fast, you start thinking what is going to be my interaction mechanism, right? Interaction design, right? And this is also the time when people will take the experience and journeys, combine them and start making these vertical wireframes, right? Now, I have also never met any successful developer who at least doesn't have a wireframe. It doesn't have to be a formal wireframe, none of this. Typically, this will be a lot of yellow notes stuck all over a glass wall or a wall, where you say, yahan se yahan, this is what it looks like, right? There is also another place where you do a lot of interaction design, right? The user will do this. And that part what becomes clear is,
a lot of what we do in a typical app, you don't require, right? Because design is also removing. Most of the time, when you come to an app, I mean, typically every time we develop an app, we go through this process of testing. But after testing it for a few days, ये 4 steps करने की जरूरत है नहीं. Nobody will use them after the first time, so get rid of them, right? That's the kind of the stage. And in the end, you get to the visual design part, right? Where you say what color, what kind of graphics. We want nice photos coming here. We want this alignment, that alignment, stuff like that. To me, that is usually the least important part from an overall perception, because that can continuously happen. Right? The most important parts are if the first 2 parts are not right. If you don't know what you want to give your user, if you don't know how to get your user that experience, the last visual design part is frankly useless. You can have the prettiest of looking apps, and something give an example of the ratings that app got, right? It looks stunning, but in the end, the video doesn't play. What use is that, right? Because, or maybe the video played, maybe the guy forgot to do some preliminary steps. Maybe the app designer wanted people to pray to the video god before pressing play. Maybe that's the problem, right? But that's the thing. And the end is engineering design, right? And here I have a brilliant example. I see this a lot, right? People design these apps. Most apps will probably use an API, because most apps are connected to the cloud. And this is what I'm saying, how an engineering decision influences the whole app experience. But a lot, I've met a very few people, and most of those people have successful apps, where no one uses cache, local caching apps. You say, why would you use local caching apps? You use a cloud API, right? You pull down a lot of images, you pull down a lot of API responses. You draw the screen, and it looks stunning and brilliant. User will accidentally press back, you go back into the screen, the user is pulling down the 300 KB of data. Browsers do that. In a browser, if you accidentally press back, most browsers will not refresh. Most browsers will, at least load something. At least browsers will not load the images again. Now, you would use caching on a web page when the user is probably connected to a stable internet connection. But on a phone, when I'm traveling, I live in Bombay, I travel by the local, and between Manpur and Kurla, there are only 2 spots where you get internet connection properly. But if I'm already in your app, and I'm using that app, and I've got some data connection, and I've got some results. Maybe you have an app that recommends books for me to buy, right? And I get 5 books a result. And for some reason, I go into a book and I come out saying I'm reconstructing the list for you by fetching it again from the internet. That doesn't work, guys. My point is, I've seen some examples where people, what they do is they set a limit. We will store up to 10 MB of response data offline. And if the last response sent was less than an hour old, and if there are no elements which are updated, which are dynamic, he will just reload the list from the local cache. Never take the user to the internet on a mobile context until absolutely necessary. Now that's, no designer or product manager will probably start thinking of that as the experience design. This will finally come down to the developer. The developer has been given the design, this is what it looks like, brilliant. Maybe I have experience there. Which is when engineering decisions like these, right? I want to have a local cache. I want to make sure, that images are never, I will create an MD5 hash locally, and I'll make sure that if that image is the same as the image that I'm getting, I'll just not pull it from the internet, I'll pull it from local. Most users will have 10, 20 MB of data easily available. They're happy. Users won't mind. You can use up the data. But I could go on and on, but I wanted to take you through this is how you start thinking. Do not start the other way. People will say that I've created a very quick prototype of the app, and there is a place for prototypes. But the prototype comes after you thought through at least 2 of the top 3. Hopefully in that order. Right? If I have this app, it doesn't look much like much, it does most of the things, and then we'll start thinking from this perspective. The problem is you start making reverse compromises. You think, I can have an app that that it feels better, but it takes too much effort for me to code. This already works. So let me just make do with this. When you go in the reverse order, you make far too many compromises, ends up compromising the design. The top 3, by the way, collectively called UX design. I hope that we will cover a bit short time. I really want to cover this, but this will take around half an hour. So here's an idea. These 7 laws, I picked them up from various places. There are a lot of people who use these laws in a different sense. But these are kind of like universal laws, where effectively, I mean, I'll quickly go through this. I will not go into detail, but I'll be happy if you just come across me, and I'll be happy to share material that goes through these. If your app passes all these, whenever you're in doubt about, should I put this in my app or should I not put this in my app? This is a great guide, right? Law of clarity is, if user doesn't understand what the icon or what that user element represents, right? Don't do it. And not, for example, those 3 dots, the ellipses, everybody puts ellipses there, right? One of the most fascinating insights for me is, and we do this consumer thing where people test this, most of your users who are new to smartphones don't understand what the ellipsis is. They don't understand that it's meant for a context thing. Right? Law of clarity means that until never assume that users will understand what you're trying to convey to them. Right? Make sure it's clear. Law of preferred action. In a screen, there should always be one action that you want the user to do. Never leave it ambiguous. If you have 2-3 actions, you can't guide the user. In the mobile, I'm carrying a 6-inch phone, but most of the users will probably have a 4 to 5-inch device, which is, that's a sound statement, but in a small screen, users don't have the luxury of choice, right? Make it very clear what you want them to do, which is why, for example, when you go to Twitter, right, you'll always have the big thing today. So either search or write or making a tweet, right? Stuff like that. Law of preferred action. Always have one preferred action that you want user to take, highlight that action. Preferably that action should somehow drive more engagement. But most apps are very confusing because there's so much, but they don't have one thing that they want people to do. I mean, people call this call to action or whatnot, but the idea is there is always one preferred action. If your app has, you can have more than one preferred action depending on your use case, but if it's, yes.
Which law would you say the other one? I mean, would the law of clarity be put in for, given the preference, like give the user just 2 or 3 commands that we can menu we can choose from, or should we give like 5 preferences?
So the law of clarity is not the law of putting, never put menus there. The law of clarity says that don't put those menus as images. Right? Don't put those menus as images. What people will typically, in many cases they'll do is, you put a lot of small icons without explanation. Law of clarity basically says that if you put something there, make sure that the user knows what that's for.
So even if we are putting like 5 different small icons or just words over there, and in that case, it would just take me 1 step to reach to my preferred action, but I will lose the clarity.
If it's a preferred action, you should not take 1 step to get there. You should be in the front.
What if I cannot drive like all 5 of them can lead to a different action, all of them are
then in most cases you need to rethink your app, because if you land in a page and you have 5 different actions of equal importance, right? Then you really need to work very hard to make sure. You want the user to start somewhere.
That was the answer.
Most users don't like choice. People think that I want choice, right? But when offered a choice, they'll just press the home button and get out. Right? So when you want them to book a ticket, show them book a ticket right now, or search for a movie right now, right? Don't show them, I mean, yes, there are scenarios, and I see Satyajit.
He actually deals with the product where
there are so many preferred actions, there are so many things he wishes to do. But ask him how many sleepless nights that team spends in figuring out that what is the few things, minimize. I want people to do one thing.
It's like book a ticket, but the user needs to know if the ticket is available or not.
Yeah, so you start with anything, book a ticket, and roll from there. Let me quickly run through this. Law of context. If user wants to do an action, they want that action anchor as close as to the object it will affect. Or it's a little more complex. So if I want to like it's simple, right? If I want to like a photo, I want the like button to be near the photo rather than in some menu somewhere. Now this seems obvious, but trust me, take 5 random apps and see that practically every app always sees. Users are all about context. Satyajit again used a brilliant example, right? People are hungrier around lunch, right? That's a brilliant context for him to put his app in, right? If Zomato is in your home screen and you're hungry, that's an app you go to, right? So, but law of context in the UI sense means that where you want user to do a particular action, put that icon or that glyph or that call to the thing as close as possible to the thing that affects. You want people to like a photo, put that like button or the overlay on the photo. Put it as close as possible. Of course, not suppose that it overshadows the thing. Law of context. Law of default, this is amazing. 75% of people will never change the default settings. If your app has a black background, most of the users will have the black background. You know, the Nokia ringtone is the most popular ringtone in the world because it is the default ringtone of the most popular phone in the world. And people almost never change default, the law of default. So give a lot of thought to the default settings you ship your app with. Make sure that it is good for a majority of users and not for you. I mean, this is good, right? For example, some people prefer a different kind of a background, right? Some people like to customize. The reason I'm saying this is that an individual developer or as a good developer, make sure that your app is not customized to you when you ship it. Make sure what is the most popular option, because most users will use the app in the way you ship it. They will never change it. They don't, trust me. 75 is probably an overestimation based on a different app in the app. It's probably going to be closer to right. Most users will never change any setting in your app. They'll use it as it is, and if it doesn't come ready to use or the most lowest one, I mean the most preferred setting, which is why testing is more important. This takes time to discover. Law of guided action, right? This is simple, right? You need to break every complex action into smaller actions. You have a page full of you have a form with more than 4 fields. Fine. Once you get to 5, 6 fields, basic principle about a form, right? If you have to scroll the form, you scroll. If your form has more than 2 buttons, you scroll down. And by the way, the second button is go back. The second button is not allowed to be active. If you have to scroll, you scroll down. Law of feedback. Whenever you take any action, give the user immediate feedback through motion. Shake the text, shake the image. For example, in Instagram, you double tap an image, it gives you a heart pop-up, right? Or it turns the heart. This is the biggest cardinal sin that badly designed apps are making. They say that user ने tap कर दिया, I've started sending a background request, but the user doesn't know that now you're connecting to the internet to get something. Right? Yes, people will put a rating indicator, but sometimes it's enough to say that give us a moment, we are getting something from there. Most apps that people quit are because people think they're too slow, because they feel the app is not responsive, because you didn't give the user instant feedback when the user taps. Right? Feedback. And then there is the law of easing, which is, fortunately I thought I have more time for this, but the law of easing essentially is when you bring the user into an experience, right? Give your experience to the user in small portions that they can find. I said a preferred action. I said that there should be one preferred action. But law of easing is when you have an experience, when you have a very big story, when you offer an app which does so much, make sure that you offer users something they can do immediately, then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. Right? This is again very well known principle. Facebook allows you to create a profile just with your email and phone number. And over time, learns everything about you. Every 5th or 6th day, they'll tell you, hey, did you go to the school? Is this guy your brother? Is this guy your is this guy your friend? Stuff like that. Law of easing. Eventually, you will get the user. Right? Don't get everything from the user this time, right? I mean, for those of you who are interested, Americans have a grade system. They call it first phase, second phase, third phase. Look it up. Yes. Right. A quick list on this 5 principles of Windows Phone design. Phase reduction. And this is the way, when you think Windows Phone design, just think along these 5 things. That when people ask me, does this meet Windows Phone guidelines? I said, look, there is no such thing as Windows Phone. I mean, there is, obviously. But I said, a good way to think about it, there are 5 principles of Windows Phone. Phase reduction, typography, motion, content not chrome, authentically digital. Incidentally, if you build for iOS 7, same principles apply there. Right? These are principles of minimalist design which Windows Phone follows. Phase reduction. Everything should be clean, light, open and fast. I mean, I'll just read through this. Focus on primary tasks, do a lot with little. These are principles, but what it looks like is this. Real example, guys, not kidding. That guy saying, feedback mein circle la diya, it's got a background image. I'm sure the designer thinks, well, it's must, I've got a graphical form. I mean, I know it's a pretty calculated and a very extreme example, but you'll be surprised how many apps and stores look like this. And a minimalistic way is, just put it out there, very simple, clean. That's all the user cares for that point of time, right? Everything else is this. And this is one example. You could see thousands, right? I'll quickly move on. Typography. I could spend hours talking about this, right? But the fundamental of Windows Phone is never use an image when you can use a text. A lot of people come and tell me that, yeah, Windows Phone, they have this big heading that consumes so much vertical space, right? So any designer, what they're taught to tell you is that text allows you to have hierarchy, an idea of what the app's all about, right? And people don't even need to read the whole word. If people read the first few characters, mind fills in the gaps. Typography is a very powerful tool. It allows you to keep your apps light, allows your apps to gain timelessness. Graphics go in and out of fashion. Typography. Here's a great example, right? This is the calendar view of the Windows Phone, right? Notice that outside of it, this thing has exactly, going the app bar, but the main screen only just two different kind of graphics. Everything else is text. Except for the first time you see it, you know exactly where it's going, right? It uses the size of text to display the context. That the agenda view of the to-do is after this. After you swipe to the left, to-do will come next. Right? You have headings, the way it's weighted, it's big font. Smaller than that, it uses different colors to show different calendars. If you were using a Windows Phone, you will see that this makes perfect sense to you. Except, even when people try to design calendars, you will be surprised how graphical they try to make it, right? I need this to have a very nice single pixel grid which will show me the day, and then there will be a pop-up of a sun coming out from behind a counter. You don't need all that. This does the job perfectly, and you know what? In the end, if it loads half a second faster, user will thank you. Also, if you understand basic typography, which is not difficult to figure out, just look at a lot of great examples, this is easy to do. And your users will still think it's a great app as long as you give them the information they need. Moving on quickly, apps should have motion. If you do not worry about animation when designing an app in 2014, you are still, you're still 2 years away. Think of every great app, you probably use some animation. When I touch something, it moves, right? When I swipe to the left, it smoothly sides up. It doesn't just suddenly transition to the next page abruptly. People will forget where I was, right? Human beings use motion to set our context, right? If a ball suddenly appears here, I do not know which direction it came from. And was it thrown or was it lying here? But if it comes in this direction, I will look at the ball, I will look back, I will look at the source. I will know more, right? Animation allows people, users, in the limited space of the mobile screen, to understand what, how, where it's coming from, where it's going next. A simple screen transition, if a user swipes to the left, if you gently take him to the next page, right, the user knows that they're coming here from the left. But if you abruptly tap the screen and the new page appears, the user doesn't know whether they came from the left or they came from the right. Which is why Windows Phone uses so many animations, right? That you swipe to the left or swipe to the right. Right? Even the pivot control for those who use it, right? It doesn't really transition that well, but it still allows you to go either from left or from the right, but it has a very clear animation which shows you swiping, moving to the left or moving to the right. Right? Again, I wish I had more time for this, but if there is one thing that you learn from today, is the next time you start to build an app, start thinking, how can I use animation to make this app better? It doesn't have to be flashy. It has to be that when I'm transitioning the user from one context to another, right? Can I use animation to give the user more information about where they are? It's a very small thing, very difficult, very challenging. Content not known. Anytime you think about decorating your app, here is the simple principle. Don't. The user does not want you to decorate your app. The first example we saw where there was a background image and this and that. If you ever want to add a background image, do it once you have 1 million users. At least you'll have feedback. Don't impose your will. Anytime, and this is a very simple thing. Design an app with a very basic experience, then start adding visual elements. If your visual element doesn't add to your functionality, don't do it. Simple Windows Phone principle. You will see this everywhere. There are times when a visual element will make your app look better. When you add a background image and blur it slightly, it will give people a sense of depth. Where my text is floating up. Sometimes people will add a background and blur it slightly. It gives people a sense of depth. It will allow people to find their text easily. Right? But if you add a background just because you found this awesome clip art which is free to use, it's probably a bad idea. Don't decorate without need. Right? I mean, take a look at some of the best apps out there. Right? As you see, increasingly most apps have come to a place where sometimes the background will go away, sometimes and they call this new trend. Our app has a new clean looking interface. What they basically meant is, our designer school of the first time, we added too many elements, we removed 10 things, and our app is completely new. I'm not kidding. Sometimes I mean brands who got their app redesigned, but basically what the designer did is I took these 10 things, removed them, and suddenly think their app is lean is in, make sure their apps are lean. Remember that your UI is made up of content. You should never have to design your UI because your content is your UI, right? I want you to show the screen again. There is the UI. The content is the UI, and those 3 buttons are actually monochrome. Right? Windows Phone has Lumia devices have some of the best screens in the business, but still we use monochrome UI. Don't decorate. Your users will thank you for it. Plus, most times, again, because if you're talking about an app which potentially has 1 million users, seriously, when was the last time you thought that you could choose something that has 1 million users? You'll have 20,000 cats in there, different people, which is why we have apps that, we have themes and stuff like that, right? Content is your UI. Authentically digital. I'll just leave this screen, right? Authentic. Yes, please. Authentically digital is designed for the form factor. Don't try to do what it's not. I took an example of notepads that have, that look like they're made up of leather backing and yellow paper, right? Not really. All you need is a simple canvas to tell people where to start typing from. Here's a quick example. I mean, these are all neat graphics, but you take a look, take an infographic approach and a graphic approach. Those 4 icons on the side, mail, call, messages, and alarm, similar icons in different OSs, you find different way, right? By the way, this is from a very popular mobile phone OS. On the left, I don't know if anybody can recognize which OS these are from, but these are once very popular icons, everybody knew what they were about. And if you don't use these particular OSs anymore, and I'm sure not many of you do, they really don't make sense and they look ugly and gaudy. I work for a time, somebody unveiled these in front of people and people clapped. Right? The infographic approach, let me tell you, they may start to look old in 5 years, but nobody will ever be confused about what they do. Ever. Infographic approach makes your app timeless. They also meet the principle of simplicity. When building a Windows phone, start from the principle is this something someone has drawn, or is this the least minimum possible required to represent this concept? Right? Designing a home screen tile is one of the most difficult tasks in Windows Phone because that one tile will showcase so much to your users. Make sure it's minimal, make sure you take an infographic approach, it is for the best. If you have to draw, as in think about this shade and that shade and this shadow and that shadow, you've gone wrong. Don't do it. Can you just go to the website? Oh, okay. I don't have time for an app case study. I really want to explore something really cool. I want to take you through an app and how that app meets, most of these guidelines, and then breaks these principles in many ways. Let me see if can I get 2 minutes? Let me see if I can do this very quickly. So, I wanted to show an app, and I'll quickly go through this. And actually, this app breaks many of the rules I just described, but it does so elegantly and where necessary. How many people know reading later as a service or Pocket? Right? The app I want to show is Pokey, and Pokey is really cool, right? Single developer, Germany, Matthias, he's a pretty neat guy. He's an engineer by training. He's by his own admission is not a designer. He's not somebody who does CAD graphics. But he wanted to build an app. He wanted to build an unofficial Pocket client where Pocket is essentially a really great service where I'm reading an article on some web page or some place, and I can just send it to Pocket, and then Pocket stores it, gives it in a more readable format. I love Pokey because it's an app that's only come out a few weeks ago, very popular now. It actually has a in-app purchase where it's a trial version you can upgrade, and let me just say that he's doing decently well in business. Good design is good business because this is one of the best looking Pocket clients on the Windows Phone. So, what I wanted to really look at this app is look at how minimal this app is. Now, most Pocket clients will try to make a tile with some content, with some graphic and everything, right? Pokey, instead of using graphics, uses circles. If I have more time, I'll show you that when I launch the app, what Pokey does is it stores the article offline. And when the article is downloaded, the circle has a very small arrow showing that I'm downloading this article. So if some other article is finished downloaded, that thing will show the circle in a complete way, you can just read that. Right? Fortunately, it was the integration of what we showed you. Pokey is a very simple app. It took him 6 days to design. He wanted a simple list with simple graphics. He's not, look how many graphics this one screen has. That's all, right? This one screen has really cool graphics. His logo, which is basically typed in a font, in a unique font. Right? Many people say, in Windows Phone, I have to use just one font. He breaks the rule right there. You don't have to. He uses his own typographical font, makes great sense. And then he just designed one logo, and one graphic, and one graphic is a big circle. Use this app on your Windows Phone, and you see that he uses the circle for so many things. He uses the circle as a progress indicator, he uses the circle as a download indicator, right? He uses the color, if the article is not downloaded, the circle is gray shade. If the article is going to be downloaded, not downloaded, not yet available. So by just changing the color of the circle, the designer is able to tell you that this article is finished already. Again, once you look at the app for the first time, you don't get much, right? But over time, once I start using the app, I as an audience, right? It starts to make great sense. This circle means this, circle means that. He uses the panorama screen. So when I swipe to the left, here are my favorites. My favorite tabs. Again, every place there is just one thing. When I say preferred action, you know what the preferred action is? Nothing. Because Windows Phone has its control app bar, right? But all the important actions you need to take, commands are below. In the canvas itself, this is only an information. Similarly, it's used a menu. A lot of people, by the way, using a menu in Windows Phone is one of the biggest challenges because how do I display the user the phone? Right? Eventually, people will navigate there. Unfortunately, I don't have too much time. I wanted to take you through signing up on the app and pointing out specific things. If some of you want to get an idea of how they did, what they do well, meet me offline and I'll be happy to do it. Owing to the time, I'd like to close this here. I'm getting looks that I can't do a big Q&A. I'm available, let's sit and talk. In the end, I want to leave you with this. App design looks difficult, but it's not. To me, an app design is a math problem that has been solved very elegantly. If you write it in a notebook, I mean, all of us remember that one time when we sat through the night and solved a very difficult mathematical problem. And we did it in a hurry, and then you know what? Many people have this tendency, right? That if I solve the math problem with a lot of corrections, I would like to take it in the clean notebook one more time, right? And that math problem solved looks so beautiful. It doesn't look beautiful because it's been decorated, designed well. It looks well because it has been executed elegantly, and there is nothing in that. When you finally take it in your room, we should call it the soft copy. Rough work में या soft copy में कर रहे हैं, teacher को दिखाना. I remember that as the best form of design because there is nothing more I could add there, nothing I can take away from there. I've shown my best face to my audience, which used to be my math teacher, which used to hate me, I'm terrible at that. But whenever I would solve a problem myself, I would make sure that I write it in the next nice handwriting, put it in a single page, so that I get a nice little love, right? A great, well-designed app is a beautifully solved problem, right? Where you have kept the audience. That's it. It doesn't require graphics. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. That was a fantastic session, very energizing. I sincerely hope you all found it useful. My name is Nishant Ravi. I'm from the Developer Experience team here in India. So I'm going to talk about Nokia APIs. Trust me, I'll keep it short, but you can always think of me offline for more detailed questions on this. So Nokia is, traditionally known as a phone manufacturer, and of course the first one that you see out here, the design part, the industrial design, really separates from the other OEMs or phone manufacturers. That's legendary, the industrial design of Nokia. When we embarked on our strategic partnership with Microsoft a couple of years ago,
we were just not sitting idle. We invested in a couple of assets and innovations, and imaging, music, and location were some of the key assets we worked on, and now it's out there in open for you guys to tap on. So I'll just take them, take each of these, quickly and go through that. Has anyone in the crowd, first of all, used any of our APIs? Just if you want to do a quick poll. Okay. Imaging SDK, how many of you have done? Just one, two. You have three or four hands, right? So, of course, it's running the native Windows Phone 8 library, accessible from C#, VB and C# Windows Phone 8 projects. Includes 50 filters, 50 effects to do image processing, and we can set up other adjustment parameters. You don't need any specific intellectual horsepower to know about image processing algorithms or techniques. Recently, we announced our 1.1 version of SDK. I think if you see the numbers out there, the SDK download for 1.1, and it was just announced in MWC in Barcelona, has been running to the download since 25th Feb. And SDK 1.0 download. But what kind of projects it has resulted in, you'll see in a couple of seconds. The core functionalities which 1.1 SDK brings to the table are support for Windows 8.1. That's the direct feedback which we received during the 1.0 integration or implementation. When we released that, it came from the developers that please bring in Windows 8.1 support, and we've got that one. I just wanted to know from the crowd, does anyone, you have one goodie to give away, when exactly this SDK 1.0 was the beta for that announced? Anyone in the crowd? Okay. So August and September 2013, that's when it was publicly announced. So I'm talking about the beta part, when it was open for the beta testing. Yeah. When was that? Yeah. He's right. Aman Bedi is his name. Fantastic app developer. Know him. Great work done on a do-good kind of campaign. Won NASCOM's third prize. So July was the time frame when we opened up the beta for SDK 1.0, and as you mentioned, August September time frame was when we publicly rolled it out for the larger developer community. The new functionality which we bring for in the 1.1 release is the HDR high dynamic range effect. Lens blur, which if you are a photographer or out there in the crowd, you must have heard the term bokeh. That's what it is. And then the interactive foreground segment effect, which is there. There are over 50, in the changelog of 1.1, if you see, there are over 50 changes that have been taken care of in 1.1 release. And the good news is that tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. we are going to have a webinar on 1.1. So I request all of you to go log into the webinar. It's been taken by a person called Michael Samuel, right? He's an MVP, and he takes a lot of WP sessions for the Nokia developer community. So please request you to again mark the date and learn about 1.1 SDK in detail. Some cool apps using the power of imaging SDK. I think before your Instagram came into the picture or the Windows Phone store, we had 6-stack. Anyone heard of 6-stack out there? Just one. Okay. Rudy Kuhn is the person, and he's an MVP. And his app was preloaded on most of our devices based on extremely popular demand, because people felt that this is the true Instagram app, and that was the response we got for 6 tag was amazing, and we started preloading on our devices, especially the PureView, the ones with PureView camera. One shot is another example for capturing the real-time camera filters experience. But the one I just wanted to highlight, which was is Ikura. It's allows users to create and participate in various photo challenges. Ikura was has anyone seen the Nokia Create challenges? Yeah. So Ikura was one of the winners, and this person was thrown into MWC recently. They won the mini mission part Nokia Create Championship. So this is something outstanding, and he was voted Spain's best app of all time. Right? Nokia Mixed Radio. I don't think we need to have an introduction here. I mean, we are talking about mixed radio availability in over 200 countries, a century worth of recordings, right? So there are no logins, no ads. It's as easy as it gets. So we have two features out here in terms of Nokia Music APIs. One is the launchers, right? And then we talk about the methods, which covers these particular use cases. Based on these two, or specifically on the methods, one cool application has been developed. Although there have been a lot of them, right? But one good, great application which has come from the community using the potential of Music API is Cardash. Has anyone heard of Cardash? Right? I mean, if you're trying to work, for example, and you just play, it's kind of, silly, and you talk to it and you tell it, play me this particular music, and it just plays you that kind of music from your music catalog. So it's just brilliant, and of course it also uses Care API, which we are going to cover in a couple of seconds. This is one example of a really good app using the methods in music APIs. As you see, he's playing music, playing artists, playing albums, all those kind of stuff. The only thing I want to know out here, anyone using the music mixed radio APIs out here? Has anyone used it? What? So just to ask you here quickly. So what's your app doing with respect to mixed radio API? Sorry? Okay. And how many downloads you've done? 1,000? Great, that's decent, and that's good. That's awesome. We lead in location asset, and we have a comprehensive location platform to offer you. Perhaps we are the only OEM player out here in the world which are bringing these kind of innovations to you in an open, as much open possible. One of the two cool apps, one of them I really wanted to point out. So Track My Life is one of them, but Place View, I just wanted to mention it out here because this was kind of featured, on one of our blog posts, and this is done by a developer in Hyderabad, and he really taps into here APIs like anything. It uses augmented reality capabilities of your API. So this, the person's name is Nirmit Kavai. Please take a look at his app. Really, I think this is one of those proud moments I can say, where we feel very proud when someone of that capabilities come into the limelight from into a global forum. So we would like to definitely see more of such movements coming up from this crowd and tapping into our APIs effectively. Lastly, I just want to just advise you that when we announced the SDK, SDK 1.1 in MWC, we have also announced a competition called Imagine Mission, and what we are offering is that the top prize is experiencing zero gravity, all expenses paid by Nokia. I think this is your chance to tap into our innovations and go and experience out of the world, zero gravity experience. Of course, runners-up get a lot of XPs and Nokia devices. So no one gets goes empty-handed. So please log into the site and check out more about the imaging mission. More resources are out here. I mean, in case if you have really tapped into one of our APIs, please write into developer relations marketing. No support emails on this, please. Only if you have actually, you have integrated some really cool app of yours using our innovation, please write to them. We will definitely try to feature you, right? And it will be great to see someone from here, coming up on that global platform. With that note, I'll thank you, and more sessions coming up out there. So watch out. Thank you.
Thanks, Nishant. So quick time check. So we have a couple of really other cool presentations coming up. One from Gaurav again on gaming, and so that's take about 15 minutes. And then we've got some of our partners here. They've got special offers for you. So just request some patience. We will stretch to about 9:15, 9:30. Just to give you a heads up. And then we've got games going outside. So Gaurav. Okay, so let's quickly talk about game development on Windows Phone. So let me set up the expectations over here. In this short span of time, what I'll try to cover and what my aim is to make you aware and let you understand what all options and what all scenarios are available to you when you are thinking to create a game on a Windows Phone platform. That is one thing. Secondly, if you are a game developer on a particular platform like Windows Phone, right? How you can port that game to other platforms like Android and iOS, right? We will not go into the details of how to create an actual game because that's not in 15 minutes. But as a mobile developer, as a game developer, what all options are available to you? If you are a C# developer, if you are an HTML developer, if you are an iOS or Android developer, what all you can do, that we're going to discuss about. So, quickly going ahead with this slide.
Okay, so we have seen this slide. The first option which is available to you is obviously direct 3D and Java, right? Direct 3D C++, the complete power of DirectX and direct 3D together with C++ and putting it over as XAML application, you can create amazing things. That's the first option for you to explore out. We'll go into all the demos of these games as well as coding once I complete the slide. Okay. Now, here comes another scenario. If you are not a managed developer, that means not a .NET developer from other world, like if you are an HTML developer or XAML or Android. So, what are the options for you? One option, which is the most open of all, is platformer game options. Like there are some third-party HTML5 platformer game options given to you, which you can port it down to Windows Phone, Android, and iOS. Right? So, you know, there are options like Box 2D, Cocos 2D, which you can convert it to a Windows Phone. So, we'll have a demo of that in a short while. The third option is powerful third-party game engines like Unity, like Havoc. Now, what are these? These are not programmatic platforms. These are separate game engines which have the capability of what all it takes to create a game. The capability of physics, the capability of motion, the capability of geography, creating parents, trees, rivers, 3D projections, every single kind of 3D animation you can think that is provided by this third-party game engines. So that is the third option for you. But now you would ask me that if I create say as an example game in Unity, can I port it to my Android app? So ultimately I am an Android developer, right? So can I do that? The answer is yes. And you will see how to port them. Obviously, when you are creating a game natively, that would be the most powerful, right? Because it's native to that particular platform. So for Windows 8 and Windows 4, definitely we have DirectX. Similarly, for these are the third-party gaming engines which are given to you, and we'll see a demo on Unity soon. Apart from this Havoc and audio quality, I'm not sure if you have explored all of this, but Unity and Havoc, that's something which I'll talk about. So, we'll go into the demo later. The last option which I told you was on HTML5, because with Windows Phone 8 we have 4 times faster JavaScript performance and double of HTML feature support. I will not put it this way, but I will put it is that with i10 you have got the power of hardware acceleration. When I say that, I mean to say that in browsers can now leverage the core processing power of the CPUs to render your applications ASAP. So if you have seen applications like Chrome, you just go to your browser and type Chrome, you see an HTML5 Disney comic which is based on HTML5. It uses your device's processing power to render itself. So now, whatever kind of device you are rendering it on, it uses that CPU's power, and this facility, this capability is introduced in i10. This is called hardware acceleration. So the same thing goes for Windows Phone also, because on Windows Phone also we are running i10 or 11. Okay, so this is one game which is developed on i10 using plain HTML and JavaScript, and we'll see a demo of it once we cover. Okay, the second demo is on Construct 2, which is a platformer gamer, which I just spoke about, and I think now it's time to go to the demo right away so that you can understand it better. So, let's put it here. a plain Windows phone application and built on HTML and JavaScript. If I show you which kind of template it is, so we go over here, go to Windows Phone, and this is the template which is being used. As I told you, it's a web browser and inside that HTML is loaded. If I just run this application, it's running on Windows Phone emulator. Loading. So this is a game like some stones are, some bugs are moving from up to up, and the guy who is there at the top is down there and he's sending stones on there. The idea to show this simple game is that you can create games on Windows Phone platform using plain HTML5 and JavaScript, which is you can see over here. So basically, if you, all of these JS files, they contain the basic logic of creating canvas around your screen, and you all need to, if you need to customize this game, you all need is to put in different values so that will increase or decrease the speed or change the UI of the player. Right? Just as an example. Now, if you are not a HTML JavaScript developer to such an extent that to create a game right away from scratch, so what are the options possible to you? So let's go to our first platformer, which is called, there is a product from Spira which is called Construct 2. So what it is, basically it is a eventing model. If you go to the complete documentation of this product, it gives you objects and it gives you events. So you can map among those. And using that, using the ID for Construct 2, you can create games and then you can port it to your Windows Phone, iOS and Android. As an example, like I have installed this and using one of the sample games of this particular product. So let us run the layout. I think this resolution showing error. Okay. Okay, I think it's a resolution issue. The idea is you will run this game, okay, that is not a problem, and then you can simply export this project to the platform of our choice. So we can either convert it to an HTML, a Chrome, and within mobile I can convert it to Android, phone, Intel, or Windows Phone. So I converted this application into my Windows Phone application using this migration tool, and what I got was this. So just load this application. So the same application I can run it into my Windows Phone. So that's how it works. So what we have used is this particular platform's in-built model, and you want to use this system and convert it into your template. Now there are millions of samples. If you go over here for this particular Construct 2, and you can convert any of these apps into the platform of browser. Give me a moment, let me put in my charger. Okay, similar to this, we have another product which is called Game Studio, and if you go to this site, this is again a third-party platformer game. gives you, designs, like it's just like Blender, right? You can create designs on the top of it, and then you can do a multi-platform export. Okay? And you can port it over to mobile, to all of the possible platforms you have. Now coming over to native applications, this is all possible. Now Unity is a third-party gaming engine, and we create a lot of applications on Unity. And in fact, there are many super powerful games which are being created in Windows Phone using Unity. First of all, you need to install Unity. If you see this particular ID, this is the ID for Unity. We have multiple tabs like scene and game. Scene is a particular scene on a particular projection, and game is how it is visible on my visible to my end user. So, and there are multiple game objects which I can create, like I can create terrains and trees, all those different kind of packages which you can think of. Like character controller is used for motions, 2D and 3D, similarly for glass reflection, image effects, particles, physics, material. So you can easily go through the documentation of this, very nicely written. And once you create a game on this Unity, so like this is a particular game which is not very good, it's given to you as a sample. You can run it over here, and it's very easy to port it to a Windows Phone application. And you can see along with this, it's also given to port on iOS and Android. And one thing I forgot to tell you about my last demo also, that you are getting a complete Visual Studio solution, not just a gaming exe or not just an executable. So you can customize anything you want it. And similarly, I customize this particular, not customize, but migrated this particular game to my Visual Studio solution, which is called Angry Birds. So whatever I created using Unity without programming, I converted it into an actual code in C# and XAML. And now, if I run this, I can run my application on a Windows phone. So it will come in a while. Powered by Unity, that and any game which you can see over here, and now you can play around on this game. Okay. So that's how it's simple to work on Unity. Now, this is not a session where we go into the details of how to create games using Unity, that you can get it on the documentation and here. But these are the options for porting down those platforms. And the last thing which I wanted to discuss was Xamarin. Now, what is Xamarin and why do we use it for? We talk about a particular section of games which is called apps, which is called games, but if in general I have a requirement that I want to migrate the C# code to multiple platforms. My problem is that I want to create apps on Android and iOS, but I do not have the skill sets to create applications on them. But I am a managed developer, I know C#. So can Xamarin help me? Yes, because Xamarin is something which will convert your C# code into multiple platforms, and you can use the common code of C#. You can create projects on Windows Phone, iOS and Android simultaneously. So you can obviously, for the business reasons, that you want to enhance your business value, you want to enhance your clientele, you want to create ones and use it at multiple platforms. For all of these things, you would need Xamarin, right? So it's this screenshot is giving you an idea that using Xamarin, how you can create projects on multiple solutions. Now there is a concept called, which I want to discuss, is portable class library. Now, this is very much relevant even within the Microsoft family. So, portable class library is a special kind of a library. Normally, what you do, you create an assembly, right? You create a DLL, but it's only workable on the target framework for which it was created, right? So, you created a framework assembly for .NET 2.0, right? You could use it on a .NET 2.0 platform, but if I say I want to use the functionality of this DLL in Android and iOS, then I do that? No. So, portable class library is a special kind of an assembly which, when you start creating, you decide a profile that this library I want to port it down to Android, iOS, Windows Phone, as well as some other thing also, Xbox also, right? And this same concept which goes in Windows 8 and Windows Phone, that's how we also create intercompatible code between Windows 8 platform and Windows Phone, right? And this same concept is also workable outside Microsoft family, wherein I create a PCL and port it to iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. So, if you see this diagram, all of my heavy functionality, right, all of my DAL layer, business layer, that could be coded into a PCL, right? And because it's able to reuse this functionality on multiple platforms, I'll create UI separately on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone, and I'll reference this PCL over to that. Make sense? Right? So now you will question me that if I have a specific functionality which is available onto iOS or to Android, particular assembly or a DLL, so does that mean that I cannot use that in a PCL? Yes, the answer is you cannot, because the intersection of I would say the union of the minimum of all the platforms which are common to everyone, that when you put into PCL. So what is the alternative? Obviously, runtime polynomialism will come to your rescue. What you will do, you will create a blank abstraction in PCL, and based on what platform it is, you will provide a complete implementation. Right? All of you are developers with this also. Right? Please go ahead. To some extent you can say, but there is no exact comparison, right? So, you can. You have a Android application. That Android application will have some chunk of code which will be written in PCL, a PCL library. If you want to do one-to-one mapping, then there is a migration guide for that. Like one is how, as an example, how to make sound in Android, what is the corresponding API in Windows Phone. Right? If you have already done something, that would require one-to-one migration. But if you are targeting now as a developer that I want to create an application which is workable across multiple platforms, you will put in all of the common code functionality in the PCL. Okay, so let me show you an example. Just 2 minutes. This is my last example. And this is a tasky application. It is nothing but a small application which sends you reminders, right? So I have this PCL library project in this solution. Similarly, I have a project for iOS and project for Android and a project for Windows Phone, right? So, and it's possible using Xamarin also, because I have installed Xamarin and it's integrated with Visual Studio, and that's why I am able to do that. So, if I make a start project, set up start project and start the emulator for Windows Phone, I can do it similarly for Android and iOS, right? So that's how your application development, when you want to target multiple platforms, can be done, and it's all native because C# code Xamarin will convert into your native APIs. That responsibility Xamarin has taken out of you. You are a C# developer, but Android will understand only its own language. Xamarin will do that for you. This you can use for games also, right? So you can develop games using your favorite language, and then you can port it to your multiple platforms apart from the options I chose. Okay, with that I summarize my session.
Thanks, Saraj. Sorry to rush you, but I hope it was informative. These going to be here, so you can deep dive on Q&A with him after this. So it comes to the last slide of our presentation, which is basically our partners and their offers. So this is really to answer the question of, how do I make my apps a little more dynamic? How do I make money on my apps? Most important question. And how do I make apps very quickly? So we've got, I'll start with vServe. Saurabh from vServe. So after Saurabh, we will have Shepherds. And Shepherds is a cloud API company, very exciting. And they've got these wonderful solutions to make your static apps much more dynamic. And finally, we have Abhishek from Telerik. Telerik is really about RAD controls and how to again turn around apps, very good looking apps in a very short time. So not too long, very good. Thanks.
Close, but it's 91% in 130. It's trending towards 95% in 170. Right? So each year, the download count increases, and still the trend keeps on increasing towards the free downloads. Right? So you need to understand that we are in a stage where people want to try your application for free. Right? So that's the way it's going to have to be there. So making an application free, how do you still make money? Two options: in-app purchases or ads. Right? So as we move on, you'll understand that in-app purchases and ads are again applicable in different markets, and why you should adopt one or the other. These are the top 10 countries based on downloads in 2030. These are sourced from AppNet. Out of these 10 countries, only one country has proper telco billing, other than I don't. So if you don't have proper telco billing, in-app purchases are difficult. And also, all of us know what the situation is the credit card penetration. So it's pretty low. As I mentioned in my previous session, that only 22% of all people in emerging markets have bank accounts. Right? So they don't have credit or debit cards to make a purchase. That leaves us with an option that we can go ahead and add. Right? But when we talk about advertising, a lot of people think that, oh, ads are annoying, ads are going to spoil my customer experience and so on. That's where we have thought of very innovative and very non-intrusive format, which is a start and exit full page rich media ad. So all of us must have gone through magazines and all that, and then when you see rich, glossy, full page ad on the start and the exit, I mean, first and last page of the magazine, right? So it doesn't feel like it's inclusive for you. Right? You sometimes enjoy looking at it. So that's where we come in the picture, where it's full page ad before the app is launched. So if the user launches the application, he gets an ad, full page, he engages with it, moves on to your application, uses the app, and when it's moving out, he has another full page ad out. Right? So because the engagement, because it's non-inclusive, the click-through rate, that is the chances of the user to click on the ad is high. Right? And you see the CTR as high as 10% on our because of that. Apart from the format, what all we offer. So we have an on-ground sales team who actually goes and we get brand campaigns, we get installation campaigns from different sources. And we are the only network right now who has 85% fill rate on Windows software. No other network has 85% fill. That means, if you give 1,000 requests, your application gives 1,000 requests to you, and fill 850 ads. Right? So that's big, and that I can tell you other things which as we move on, how you can leverage our platform to increase the download. So that's there, and we have mediation. You use our SDK. After you use our SDK, you don't have to integrate any other network SDK. You can just tell us that I want to mediate or transfer my request to this network and we'll make that happen. Right? Without you having to integrate other SDKs. Next, we have 30 plus ad networks integrated with Visa. So it basically aggregates ad from all these networks, which further increases your fill rate. Okay? The most important, I think, for Windows developers is that you don't have discoverability of your app. Right? You're worried about your downloads. You can leverage our platform for that, where we have free house ads. So if you have a user base of say 10,000 with 5 applications, okay, and you are filling say 85% of it, the rest 15% you can use to increase your own download by showing ad of your 6 apps on the 5, or ad of all the 5 on the 5. And that way it cross promotes your own application, and with the visibility, you get more chances for download. Which is further add up to your request and run. Right? So this all actually accounts for more than 90% fill rate, and will make a lot of you utilize your inventory to the max. We also have a product called Audience Pro. This is basically a hyper-targeting platform which takes the data from the telco on the spending power of the mobile usage of the user, combines it with the already available data from the advertiser, where we want to, where's the location, what's the content, and all those things you get from your applications, and we serve the ad to the user. So the advertiser pays us more because we are reaching the target quicker, and we are reaching the proper target. So the target audience is looking at. And that's how we pay you more as we get more from the advertiser. I would like to share a success story of an international developer. This guy, I will not name the developer, but this guy has 5 games on the first page of top 3 section of Windows. His friends are racing in casual and amazing graphics. and he has over 30 applications on Windows Store also. So basically he has understood what works with the users, which categories work the best, what's the format that we should go with when it comes to revenue model, and he's doing really well. The same way, that guy has probably a team, a graphics team, a development setup, everything, and then he has got dollars. We have a local developer with a single developer again. He has got a variety of apps from various genres. He's trying to explore his own strengths. He has got over 30 applications on Windows Store, again all free. And he is, picking up the offers and all from the different work that is coming across and making money. So you can see, the previous one was pretty professional and great. Here you can see that they are pretty basic, but it's trying to cover a lot of ground. So from both of it, what you need to take of it is understand your own strengths, understand the market's strong categories, and follow it. As you gain on the quantity, start focusing on the quality as well, and that's how you get more markets. If you are coming up with a racing game, there are thousands and thousands of racing games out there. You need to stand out. There has to be something different in your application for which the user should download. So the only way you can do it is make it free. Reach out to a lot of users with good graphics, good content, understand the category that is working right now, and just publish your app and cross the move. Apart from those developers, we have a lot of international developers who work with us. Most of them are mobile, Banap, these people are very strong when it comes to Windows, and there is a lot of money outside. Again, global enterprises, almost everyone working with us. For you guys, we have double demand offer where in the next 2 months, you create applications for the existing applications, integrate our SDK. Also, we have the product called app developer, where you can adapt your applications without you having to integrate the SDK manually. Right? And we will double the revenue for the month where you have the highest revenue. Right? So just go ahead and register yourself. We have the channel on the develop challenges as well. So register with us, integrate your app, and start getting it. Thank you so much. Any questions you have, I will take off.
Thanks, sir. So I'd like to call upon the folks from Shepherd. This is the cloud API.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's 3 hours towards the end of the day. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So just a quick question. How many of you are familiar with backend services? Okay, very good. Right. So I was having a very interesting conversation with a young gentleman outside. He's all of 21 years old, and I asked him that what actually gave you the motivation to jump into this sport. He said, well, there are a lot of people out there who make shitloads of money by making games and apps, and I think I would like to jump in that battle pack as well. I said, well, that's a good idea. So how have you approached the subjects, and what have your typical developer dilemmas been? So he started out by saying that, of course, not have some of the basic challenges that he's faced is that A, he's not been one of those few people who's been funded by a big company, so he works on a very limited budget. B, he doesn't have a lot of expertise doing server-side development. So, okay, fair enough, that takes a lot of time as well. C, he said that even after having developed my game, I've had challenges to market my app. I've not had enough downloads. I've not had enough marketing budgets to spend, so to say, to acquire users. Now, I believe these are some of the very basic challenges that a lot of you who are sitting over here would resonate to, because, you know, when you get that brilliant idea to create your app, you think that there's a real possibility that I can make money out of it. You start doing your R&D, you put in your resources, you start creating your app, and you even schedule a deadline for your release date. However, as you start hitting your roadblocks, you realize that there is more to development than meets the eye. So what we do as shepherds, what we essentially do is, our aim is to make your life back-end development essentially easy. What we have done is essentially adopted an ecosystem approach wherein no matter what genre of apps you're creating, be it apps, utility apps, or productivity apps, or social networking apps, or even games, so to say, we have solutions for back-end solutions which will essentially help you cut short a lot of your back-end development complexities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly skip over some of the slides and move on to the main crux of it. So what you're looking at over here is essentially an ecosystem approach wherein we have our backend solutions wherein we support mobiles, we support web, as well as game development. Specifically from Windows 8 point of view, or not Nokia point of view, we have ready-to-use server-side SDKs available for J2ME, S40 series, Ultra series, and even Windows 8 series. The main flagship product that we have is called App for Your Cloud APIs, which comprises of 500 plus cross-platform APIs. Now, typically when you're making any kind of a game or app, you would require some very basic prerequisites such as, you know, having user, managing your users, creating usernames, passwords, setting goals to those users. Or even from a point of view of session, you might want to track, okay, so what kind of activity did this guy perform when he was in my app? Or you might even want to log, let's say for instance, that when your app crashed, what was the reason that's quite lost. So when I talk about 20 plus modules, our backend API is essentially spread across interesting backend modules like session, image, gallery, catalog, user engagement mechanics such as push notifications, leaderboards, review rating APIs. So those of you, I'm sure all of you here right now are interested in, you know, might be in the process of right now developing or thinking about developing for Windows 8 platform in the near future. What you can do is that you can actually have a look at a backend APIs which you can download and integrate into the APIs. You wouldn't have to do any form of coding. All you might require is download it based on your app specification, maybe write one or two lines code about what they've already done and integrate it with your front end. The idea being that you spend more time focusing on front end development, focusing on UI, the graphics, the interface, because let's be honest, after having put in a lot of effort and time, after your app has been downloaded, if the guy opens your app and he's not involved, that's up to 6 seconds, right? If he's not impressed in the first 6 seconds, chances are he's not going to come back to your app. So rather than spending your time doing server-side coding, server-side development, spending your core efforts on the front-end development. The second part of our ecosystem essentially is our. So from games point of view, some of the middlewares and frameworks that we're supporting at this point of time is Unity, Marmalade, Focus, DX, Skira, even we also are supporting Corona for those of you who are using that platform development games. What you can also get is that for Windows Phone specifically, what we have started doing is that push notifications is something that was not being supported, but now with Unity CD, we started supporting push notifications, so you can use push notifications to maybe engage with dominant users or based on analytics, understand what the user behavior has been on the specific app, bucket your users and use push notifications to either retain your customers or re-engage your customers. Some of the USPs of push notifications is that we support image, text, and URL-based push notifications. just to elaborate on that, for instance, you have an app which is a sports specific app. There might be a certain genre of people who are subscribed to football news, which means some people might have subscribed to cricket news. So based on channelling, you can actually send out targeted push notifications to the exact audience for which that message is meant for. The second part of the ecosystem essentially is a multi-thread gaming engine. Now, some of the real challenges that we have actually heard from developers is that creating a real-time multi-thread game is a real challenge. Some of the reasons is that you of course have technical glitches while making an app, or in the process of developing multi-thread game is not really that easy to say. Thirdly, the network connections to be so talking to the experience of playing a multi-thread game with another person. It's not as seamless as it's really supposed to be. When you talk about a real-time multi-thread game, let's say if I were playing on a Nokia device and one of you might be, you could probably be playing on an Arca series and you could be probably playing on an X40 series, right? So if you're playing soccer again with each other in a real-time scenario, if I kick the football on my screen, it should ideally instantly reflect on your screens as well and not like 10 seconds later, because that's not something that we real-time. So this is our IP engine, this is our IP property essentially, our multi-thread in cross-platform functionality, which comes equipped with features such as rooms and lobby logics. Let's say if you're playing a game that poker, when you join the game, you first basically join the room, lobby essentially, where you can decide what stakes you want to play based on the particular room. So we already have this predefined rules and lobby logics. Our multi-thread game supports both real-time multi-thread games as well as turn-based multi-thread games like that and chess. One very important feature that our multi-thread engine supports is that, let's say for instance, when you're playing a multi-thread game, you might be on the move. You might just suddenly enter the elevator and the connection drops and your gameplay essentially gets disturbed because you get kicked out of the room. So to prevent this from happening, we have a feature called connection resiliency, which essentially as soon as the connection comes back, it lets you resume and continue playing for many minutes. Obviously, there's a time limit attached to it when the connection resumes for many minutes longer. Again, our multi-thread engine, we support Unity, we support Focus 2DX, we support multiple gaming platforms in different frameworks. So for specifically Windows Phone 7 and 8, what we have at the moment is we have 45 plus APIs which is spread across 10 different modules. If you log into our website, which is api.chapters.com, and go to the Windows, you see that there are step-by-step processes, tutorials, documentations, and guides, as well as samples to help you, commence the process of app development or game development, to help you make the backend development of any app an easy process. Recently, we also started supporting Unity Free Edition. Previously, we only supported Unity Pro versions, but now with AppWalk, we can also do Unity Free Edition developers. So the third component essentially of our ecosystem is that we understand that after having developed your brilliant game or app, unless you have to promote your apps, you need to find a way to create a stickiness around your app, basically help you build an audience for your particular app. How would you go about doing that? Well, there's some very simple mechanics which we are providing to help you jumpstart that process. Let's say, for instance, I was giving a user an option to log into Facebook. You would by default give him a choice where he can in turn be an influencer for your app, thereby actually inviting another friend from your Facebook list or challenge one of your friends from your Facebook list. Another one very popular feature which is being used on platform is customizable videos. Why customizable? Is because let's say now there are different genres of gamers out there. Some might be hardcore gamers, some might be gamers who don't like to play with their own set of friends. Now, showing a global leaderboard wherein if I am playing and I'm somewhere right at the bottom of the list, and about me. That kind of billboard would not make sense to me. I would rather like to see where I stand against my set of friends. That's why customization of billboards kind of helps me engage in the community a little further, where you can show customized billboards where you show body-based standards, which are specific friend-specific scores. Because when you're on top of when you're playing with your friends and you see that you're moving on from sports, you tend to come back and engage with your app more often than you would typically in a normal scenario. Some other simple mechanics that we have are reward APIs, are achievement APIs, where you can use medallions and accolades for your users, silver badges or gold badges. You can use rewards which are virtual currencies and give them an option to redeem those rewards against some tangible gift. So you should think about maybe perhaps tying up with some vendors where it arrives with accumulated, let's say about 10,000 odd points. He should be given an option to unlock or redeem those rewards against unlocking a new level or perhaps redeeming those points against some tangible gifts. Let's say 30% discount at a restaurant or ticket for a movie. That depends on you in terms of how you want to do our gifts. Because when the user has something tangible to pay against, be rest assured that he's going to come back to pay and engage with your app more often because he knows that there's something that is trying to solve the issue. It's time. Okay. Last but certainly not the least. So, for those of you who are looking to have your own dedicated instance, where you might not want to share this on the stage, but want to have your own dedicated instance, your own space, we have unique solutions, which is our GPaaS containers, that is your own container with all of the backend APIs for a gaming license on top of that. So you have complete control over the infrastructure of the instance, in terms of how you want to manage the scalability. That's something that our team is going to be taking care of on your behalf. And just as a small, as a token of our initiative for those of you who sign up to the platform, we are happy to give you 2 million monthly API calls for free to all of our developers for the first 6 months, and 50% discount on $20 packages and above for the next. Second option for us being that on app engine you get up to 4 million messages free, and for subscriptions of $20 and $100 above, you get 50% discount. Yeah, that's about it. If in case you guys have any questions, then please get in touch with me outside my email that's last week. And we have some movies also.
Thanks so much. Quick message from our Nokia B2B team. So they've got some devices being sold at the back.
Hi guys, I'm Nitin. So we have a lot of devices and a special offer for you guys at the back. You can come down and have a look at the devices. From the enterprise team, we target the enterprise solutions team. So we work with developers to build applications for the corporate and sell them around the devices. You can have a look at the devices that you can come down and have a look.
Thank you so much. And just before I call on the last presenter, which is Abhishek from Telerik, I just wanted to spend 2 minutes to talk about our developed platform. So those of you who are familiar, I'm just showing you just a quick video from my side.
developers come in to develop and they participate in challenges that are around creating new applications or updating existing applications or hitting quality benchmarks like 4 stars and 500 points. When they participate in these challenges, they earn experience points, and those experience points can be traded in for some amazing projects.
I've been able to get rewards like a Surface Pro tablet, which I now use on the go to write my apps in.
There's promotions that you can get, like Windows Phone store placement and Nokia app highlights.
Other stuff, t-shirts, swag, even Nokia Lumia phones. I get rewarded for what I already do and what I love to do.
Our new release at Develop includes a complete redesign as well as a new feature called Campaigns, which allows developers to create campaigns to promote and market their applications.
So I tried other advertising platforms and nothing came close to what I got with Develop. I saw a 2,000% increase in revenue and a 4,000% increase in downloads.
You can get featured in the Windows Phone store, you can get featured in the Nokia highlights app, you pick the dates, you pick the time range that you want to get featured in, and it's just been a God-given gift. I've seen an exponential increase in my downloads.
Any developer can sign up for Develop and start participating right away. We're currently available in over 20 countries around the world and working every day to expand it to more.
It's really a way for Nokia to give back directly to developers that are producing quality applications, working together with them to produce the apps that they want to see on the platform.
It helps you keep motivated every day. I add new features to my apps, I create high quality apps.
It's a unique community that I don't see existing on any other platforms out there. I've just thoroughly enjoyed my participation in Develop, and I love logging in every day and seeing what's new.
So our last presentation for the day is 5 minutes. I'd like to invite Abhishek from Elevate.
Time and thank you Nokia for getting us here. Most of you are .NET developers, I believe, or not. So people who are non.NET developers, just raise your hand. Okay, so sorry. Who are .NET developers? Alright, so I would assume you know Telvik already, yes or no, largely, by and large. Yeah. So for those of you who are non.NET developers, that's alright. We've lost not much except the usability for your users. And that's what we are about, usability for our users. And since the slide deck is not up, Telvik has recently come up with a full mobile application development platform, essentially a cross platform. Quite a bit of cases you hear write a native application, the other side people tell you write a web app for doing responsive web, and the third will raise a hand and say do a hybrid app. We say do what you want, depending on the state you are in. If you are an individual developer, writing 3 branches of code is not possible. If you're funded from Silicon Valley, you can do it. If you're not, you really can't, though you might do it. So in that case, you might want to switch to hybrid. Choose the solution that you have to for your development, and that's what we are about, which is giving you a choice. If you want to develop a mobile web application, which simply users can go to and browse, and you want to expose your existing applications. It could be, I don't know, it doesn't have to be a utility app, but Zomato started with web, right? Then came on to mobile. So we have the trends of mobility, but the core web stays. You want to make the web more responsive. You want to make your apps come onto the web. So that's what we are about. I will just skip this because this is more relevant for businesses. I will go with this. This is what I was talking about. Web development stands for it is a continuum from web, hybrid, to native. Solutions exist from Telvik for all the three, and solutions are meant for making your apps just pop, okay, which means just look good. So there is UI elements in the platform which will make your apps look good. There is app builder solution which you don't need to install any SDK on your machine. You don't need to buy a Mac machine to publish it on iOS store, which most of you will not believe when I make that assertion. So you can come and make an additional file. There is basic UI for Windows Phone 8, about 16 any org controls or more targeted graphs when you want to give it to your developers or your executives or anybody else. That's what they're meant for. Maybe you are Windows 8. Amongst cloud services, you have app analytics. What people do talk about is I have 50 people coming from UK who were using that feature. They never really found that out. That is app analytics. And more, so it's going to be important for you because with your finite time you can only do as much, and that's what app analytics helps you do. Find who is doing what in your app. If someone is clicking on a button, the app analytics will tell you this button is clicked 50 times. If 5 pages for one feature, you need to know that there are 5 features, not 5 pages. You may have more features on the same page as well. There is MBAS solution, something to do with storage, user management, push notification, and everything, which I think my previous notifications, and finally, when you're actually having to write your applications, this is something that currently we're not even thinking about, with mobile testing and maintaining those test suites as you go from version to version so that you're not breaking them codes, is something very, very important. I don't know, there are more solutions out there. We also have one solution for mobile testing. But put together, these two, UI and backend, actually is a full app for anything you have. And most of you know about that, but I'll leave it by saying we have a large community of about less than 1 million developers. I don't think, we kind of take a lot of feedback and work on it to develop further. We have a lot of products that are descriptive, and there are some just the mobility solutions that we developed and they're actually quite good. I'll encourage you to go to platform.television.com and look at those solutions as well. So that's pretty much it. I'm hungry, you are hungry. Thank you so much for your time. So you can actually get started with the app builder platform to make applications that work on iOS, Android, Windows Phone from a single code base with the knowledge that you already possess of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let nobody tell you it's any less powerful at this time. We saw construct 2 engines running games. We saw more engines coming up, and it's only going to get better as we go forward. Microsoft actually did a very, in my view, a very big innovation by bringing this hardware acceleration. It's only going to get better, and I guess for all of us, it's better the more innovation. Thank you so much for your time, and you can talk to me.
So we have just one last administrative item. So there are some feedback forms, so request you to just fill up these feedback forms. How do you stay in touch with us? Go to the Nokia Developer Millionaire Club on the website, stay in touch. Look up over there about offers, and if you have any queries, you can reach out to us. Go to the Develop platform, clear the challenges. And lastly, we've got the world's best camera phone. There's a lucky draw. Somebody over here is likely to win it. So Abhishek, so all your names are here, just pick one. All I can say is thank you for your patience, and I think a lot of you have been very patient here, sitting through all our presentations. So we spent a lot of time getting this together. Thanks everybody, there's dinner outside. Thanks so much.